All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you so much for joining me. And sorry, just give me a moment while I clean this off because it's not until I go live and I see the other side through the camera. Yep, love breathing in that cat hair, man. It's Corey, what's up, man? Ray, Schmidt, unknown, Robert, Laughing Man 923. What's going on, guys? You made it during the start. Wow. Congratulations, Laughing Man. I'm glad you could be here. But yeah, welcome back to the channel. Really appreciate you guys joining me today and waiting patiently for the intro to finish up. I do have a super chat from New Soul 9 once again, and I will read that in just a moment. So thank you for that, New Soul 9. Really appreciate all the support you've been showing the channel. Yeah, so one of the topics we're going to be discussing today is Sony is confirmed to be at Summer Game Fest. And no, I'm not talking about Hideo Kojima confirming to be at Summer Game Fest. These are two separate things. However, they could turn out to be the same thing, right? So we'll talk about that. We'll speculate about what Sony could show at Summer Game Fest. New logo. Yeah, I'm trying it out. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know. The boss show begins. Masochist Mode says, y'all need to get on and defend Super Earth. We're about to lose. Yeah, I've been seeing that. Look, I've tried. I've done my part. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I've done my part, Masochist Mode. I've been playing some Helldivers 2. I've been fighting on Super Earth. Probably not as much as I could be, honestly, but I've been doing my part. I have been. So yeah, we're going to talk about Summer Game Fest and what Sony could show. We're going to be talking about Elden Ring Nightreign's reviews because the reviews are out there and, you know, it's not looking bad, but it's not looking as good as, you know, as I would have expected. And rest assured, the Order 1880, like the Order news that we're going over, it's not bait, although I do need to let you know these sequels we're talking about are not happening. But we are learning what they were going to be. We're learning the name of these sequels, what Ready at Dawn was going to do with these sequels, and it's very disappointing to read over this, to know that this is what could have been and what was planned, the trilogy for the Order 1886. And I also have to you know, basically talk about how I think Sony really, I just feel like they dropped the ball with the Order 1886. I really do. Did you see the new PS5 trailer? Sony's still advertising Marathon after all. I did see that trailer, Mr. B, and I would be a little bit careful assuming that, only because there's a good chance that that trailer was made like weeks ago, maybe even like a month ago or something, and it just wasn't released yet. Like they had a certain date. Like this trailer could have been made a month and a half ago, and it was specifically made for the Days of Play sale. And at that time, you know, there's a chance that they did not anticipate. Oh, you know what? Actually, that is true. That is true. I didn't think about that. Yeah. That's a good point, Mr. B. I guess we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. It's one of those things where it definitely, I think, you know, it makes it so that you have to question whether or not the rumors we've been hearing about the marketing being like shut down for Marathon, whether or not that's true, or if they're just kind of changing their marketing plans. But guys, before I read New Soul 9 Super Chat and before we dive into these topics, I want to again thank you for being here. If you want to help support the channel and the community and the content, consider becoming a channel member. It helps support me directly and allows me to do this. Consider gifting memberships. We're going to strive for a goal of 25 today. If we hit that, we will be able to feed the beast here. Consider dropping a super chat like New Soul 9 or dropping a direct donation. These are all ways in which you can support the channel and the community directly. We are totally fan funded. We're sponsor free. I prefer it that way. You guys make it so it can remain that way. So big shout out to everybody who shows support. Thank you so much. He never corroborates any of his rumors. I guess we'll see. And Corey the Legend comes in and drops a 20 bomb. Wow. Corey's like, you're talking about supporting the channel and feeding the beast. Here you go, man. Here's a 20 bomb for you.
Holy shit.
Would I ever be sponsored by Sony? No. That's highly, highly unlikely. I doubt Sony would ever even consider that. And I don't even know that I would take that sponsorship, Not a fan of sponsorships in that vein, it's too messy. MRPD finally gifted a membership, and Goat Gaming gifted a membership, received a membership gift. J-Dub received a membership gift. Okay, man, Corey, you really... That's interesting. That's an interesting... see, Low Key got a membership gift. Good stuff. Corey, thank you so much for dropping 20 members, man. Really, really appreciate that. So, guys, Corey set you up as best as he possibly could. The goal is 25. He got you to 20. He got you to 20. All right, so 5 more, and we can feed the beast. Oh, and yeah, this one's for you as well, Corey.
I'm no hero. Never was. Never will be.
Man, we need Metal Gear Solid 4 on PS5. We really... Konami, what are you doing with that Volume 2? Am I right? I have a super chat from New Soul 9. I'm going to read. Sad guitar noise. There you go. Absolutely. Dude, I remember... Before I read the super chat, I remember when I first heard the theme for MGS4, and I was like... I think I was like 14 at the time, and I was just like, whoa. Like this is hitting me, man. But I'll also never forget when they showed old Snake, and I was like, what? Why is he old? What happened? Yeah, the Metal Gear Solid Volume 2 compilation is probably going to be next year. I doubt they're going to want to market it around MGS3 because they want all the focus to be on Metal Gear Solid Delta. Tarnished, you won't have to worry about that. If you watched yesterday's, you can still watch that. But going forward, you won't have to worry about that. I've been flying too close to the sun, I guess you could say. Yeah, we're gonna be bringing some members lounges up too as well. Like I said, I've been having to apologize to you guys because things have been much more hectic and chaotic than usual in my life outside of YouTube. So it's been very, very difficult. Like, honestly, I'm surprised I've been able to maintain the consistency that I have with making videos and streams. So we are going to be doing some members lounges. Old Snake, he's 42. Yeah. It's all good, Tarnished. Moore's Law is dead. Rumors that PlayStation 5 Pro is getting PS3 support. When did he say this? Is this recent, Mr. B? Like, did he just drop that? Because I do believe Moore's Law is dead. He got in trouble with Sony, dude. He straight up had the documentation for the PS5 Pro, so he's legitimate. I mean, he's been legitimate, I think, for a while, but she's doing much better, Michael. Thank you for asking. Still it's a long recovery process, but definitely compared to a week ago, significantly better. Slow and steady. Yeah, let me know where he said that and when he said that, if you can, Mr. B. It's no stress. But we have a super chat that, before I read it, I just want to ask you guys as well to please take a moment and hit that like button. If you enjoy the streams, if you enjoy the content and you want to help it out, hitting that like button is the best thing you can do. It helps with YouTube's algorithm. We're always trying to bring new viewers in to help, grow the community. I think we have an awesome community. I've been seeing some new people in the past couple of weeks, people who I think are coming across the videos and subscribing and checking out the streams. And so hitting that like button definitely helps. But New Soul 9 says with a $20 super chat, "Hey, MBG, I have a question to start off the conversation. Where do we draw the line? We categorized companies being anti-consumer because I'm seeing a lot of people throwing that word around a lot versus a company trying to survive." Very interesting question, New Soul 9, one that I think goes pretty deep. And Hellbound 1981, another legend. He comes in, he dunks it, he drops the 5 membership gifts on you guys in order to get us to the goal of 25 so we can feed the beast. And then Laughing Man 923 comes in and drops a second 20 bomb on you guys. 20 more members gifted. Bro, we need some W's in the chat. We got a 20 bomb from Corey, a 20 from Laughing Man, and a 5 from Hellbound, bringing us up to 45 memberships, bro. W's in the chat.
Holy shit.
This one's for the 20 bomb from Laughing Man.
Simply put, it's the most powerful console we've ever built.
I love that music that's playing in the background. I didn't put that music there. That was in the video that I got that soundbite from. And this one's for Hellbound and Boss.
Boss, do you read me? It's time to feed the beast.
Come on, Boss. They're feeding you early today. It's angelic. It is. It's pretty funny, actually. Boss, where you at? Come on. Does bro not want treats? Boss. All right. Well, this is a first, guys. I think he might be. Are you treated out? What about catnip? Maybe he would prefer catnip. Maybe that's what he's trying to tell me. He's in denial. This is strange. Boss, what's going on? You good? Hold on. Come on. What did Luna mark this as her territory or something? You want some? Here you go, man. Oh, Luna's in here too. Sorry about that. It usually doesn't take this long. Boss is he's being all slow and tired today. It's a rainy day. It's pretty gray outside. I don't know. Maybe he's tired. Tarnish, you're saying you didn't get a membership gift. Please, anyone donate. Yes, I'm begging. Well, I mean, we're already at 45 on the day, which is amazing to see. Thank you guys so much for that. So, we'll see if we can keep it going. And Tarnish, just hang in there. Good stuff. So 1 goal obliterated. Boss, I knew you wanted treats. I'm like, was he just too lazy? You were joking, Tarnished? Oh. Well, I mean, still, if we can get you one, that'd be good. Yeah, if we get to 50, I'll give Boss a little bit of catnip as well, just to kind of round everything out. But let me get back to what New Soul 9 was saying and answer his question. New Soul 9 is basically asking the question, where do we draw the line between a company trying to survive versus a company being anti-consumer? And I think it's a good question. I think it's one that's very relevant these days. But it is difficult to answer. It's a difficult question to answer because I don't think the line exists, right? I think that the only time you could realistically talk about a company needing to survive is when there's either no competition or just minimal competition. So it's not like a competitor could ruin them, or if they're just starting, if they're just getting off the ground. These are like the only two times that I think it's okay to kind of give a company a pass on certain things. And Corey, the legend Landiga, comes in and drops another 5 membership gifts for you guys, taking us to 50 members on the day. So you guys really doing some heavy lifting today. Really doing some heavy lifting, getting us to 50 members because boss clearly wants that catnip. But yeah, and thank you, Corey. Those are the only 2 instances in which I think that you can honestly say, like, if a company does something that seems a bit anti-consumer and it's like, well, why would you do that? Whoa. Okay. That Luna's getting pretty brazen. No, maybe we'll do some reps at the end of the stream, unknown. I've been working out a lot these days, pretty sore. But yeah, maybe we could get some in. Because, New Soul, I can only assume that the reason why you're asking this question and the reason why we're seeing so many people kind of talking about it, talking about anti-consumer behavior and, companies trying to survive and kind of wondering, like, where do we draw that line, is because of what we see Nintendo doing, is because we saw Microsoft raise the prices, and because people are starting to, they're starting to question if Sony's going to be next in line to do that. And you look at the value of these companies, you look at how much they're worth in billions, and I think it does become very difficult to justify any of the decisions they're making as trying to survive, right? Because we have to understand that when we say they're trying to survive, that implies that they're on the brink. That implies that one wrong move and they're done. They're cooked. It's over. And that's not the position that Sony, Microsoft, especially not Microsoft, but or Nintendo for that matter, they don't find themselves in that position. Now, it doesn't mean that if they make a wrong move or they make a more direct pro-consumer move, that doesn't mean that they're not at risk of losing traction, minimizing growth. Oh, God. Okay. All right, Luna. Luna wants some catnip, too. They're trying to survive, bro. The CEO needs his 10th car. Again, like, as a company, speaking about it from the, the perspective of the corporation itself, like the board and, the executives, their goal is not to survive. That's important to understand. Their goal is to grow. And the name of the game is grow as quickly and rapidly as you can without doing damage, with minimizing and mitigating the amount of damage you do in that process. And if you look at the decisions that all of these different companies make, it's on display right in front of us. So, honestly speaking, New Soul 9, I don't think that any company that, like, if you encounter somebody where they're like, well, they have to do this, right? Like Microsoft has to do this, or Sony has to do this, and Nintendo has to do this. We have to understand that what that translates to is they are big business. And in big business, that is the justification, is they have to. It's the why that creates the problem. Well, why do they have to? And the answer to that is greed. And the greed is not exclusive to the corporation or to the executives themselves. It's shared between the corporation, the executives, the board, and the shareholders. And that's where the greed basically lives. And that's the best way I could kind of explain it, New Soul 9, is it's just, you want to see a company you want to talk about companies surviving. You got to look at small independent developers. You got to look at Remedy, right? Remedy is a studio that they're trying to survive in a climate where you don't see AAA independent developers really that often anymore, that don't end up getting purchased, that remain independent. And they're trying to be artistic. They're trying to create the types of experiences that they want to make, but also that their fans want. But you see them also trying to experiment in the name of survival, where they're like, yeah, we're not breaking even. Or it's like, we're still not making a profit on Alan Wake 2 years later. And you could tell they went over budget, probably out of passion, because they're like, there's a vision there. And this is why you see them come out and be like, well, we're going to do something called FBC Firebreak, which is not at all what you would expect from us. And it may be a massive flop, but you could tell when you look at that game that it's trying to speak to a different audience that, would never look at Remedy ever, unless maybe they see this game. And so I think it really just boils down to whatever company you're talking about, whatever brand you're speaking of. The line, I think, if I were to draw it, is, are you independent? And if so, what's your value? What is your company valued at? Right? How desperate are you for more funding to just be able to keep doing what you're doing? So all this is to say, New Soul 9, that Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, nobody can say it's a matter of survival, because it's not. If Sony decided that they wanted to drop the PS5 price to $350, like permanently, they would be fine. They would make less money, and they would probably have to report a slight loss on their consoles, like a small loss. And that would likely make shareholders go, why are you doing that? This isn't good. Why are you doing that? But they would be fine. They would be totally fine. The greatest example is Microsoft. Truthfully. The greatest, because it is genuinely bizarre to see Microsoft come out and increase the prices of everything, even in their games. But especially when you look at like something like the Xbox Series S, where it's like, yeah, that's going to be $400 now. And it's like, why? And it's because of what I said. It's like, well, it's just business. And what does that ultimately mean? It means it's greed driven. We don't want to lose any money if we don't absolutely have to. And we want to extract as much as we can if we are able to. It's always the name of the game for Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Always has been, always will be. The only time you'll ever actually see these companies, I will say, like, if you look at the PS3 generation, the beginning of it, that was Sony in survival mode. That was the PlayStation brand, I should say, in survival mode, where they were selling PS3s and losing hundreds of dollars on like each console sold. And they were the PlayStation division was like bleeding billions. And that was like, okay, you guys are bleeding out financially. This is like, you are on the ropes. If you don't very quickly figure out what to do to rectify this, this could be the end. Not of Sony, but of that brand. And it would not necessarily, even though it wouldn't be the end of Sony, it would be such a devastating loss for that company that it's like, they would never really recover from that. And that happened to Microsoft as well with, the Xbox One, where, you're talking about a company that was like, we're going to sell 200 million units. And they got humbled really quick, and they realized, and this was before Microsoft was fully on board. So Xbox as a brand was kind of on their own to figure it out. And yeah, they were on the ropes. That's why they're like, suddenly we do care about backwards compatibility, because it's like, yeah, you need a win. So, would Microsoft as a corporation, would they have been fine if Xbox One completely died? If the Xbox One actually killed the Xbox brand? Yes, they would have been fine. Nintendo's probably the most interesting one, because Nintendo is just a gaming company. So when you look at like what happened with the Wii U, here, you can give her some of this. I've just been holding it the whole time. When you look at the Wii U, it's like that was Nintendo as an entity, like as an entire company. That was them on the brink, where they would have survived, but in terms of being a hardware manufacturer, it was almost the end for them. Their IP, obviously, it would take a lot for any of these companies to truly enter survival mode. I mean, like it's like sink or swim. It's either this or you're going out of business, right? It would take a lot, but it's just interesting that we can see these instances where all it really takes is, one or two really bad mistakes, and then it becomes a snowball. And it's that snowball effect that can lead even some of the biggest companies down. It can reduce them down to almost nothing. So there is like a fear there. There is a fear. It's very interesting to talk about this, because it's very psychological. We do have to understand that the business executives who make these decisions, they are still human beings, as far as we know. They're people, and they're susceptible to the emotion of it all. Sometimes, and I think we see that. It's interesting. The emotion that comes, it's like, yeah, the greed. What drives greed? Power. Being, wanting power, wanting control. What drives fear? Losing. The more you have, you can potentially lose. So it naturally creates like almost like a higher level of fear. It's interesting. Good question, New Soul 9. I appreciate that one. That was a good one. How long until an MBG Junior cameo? Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I think that's just like one of those rules that I don't think I'm ever going to go against, where I don't want to bring the kids on the channel, the family. Mrs. MBG was on the channel, but you know what I mean. The cats, my other kids, they're fine. When he's 18. And it's not you guys. It's just the internet is a scary place sometimes. The internet can be a very scary place. God, I see some of the stuff that my son's watching on YouTube these days. I've been seeing multiple people, multiple channels, basically announcing that they're done on YouTube. And one of these channels was like a philosophy channel. I forget the name of it. It starts with an E. It's like I think it's a German name or something or whatever. But he like posted this big thing about how he's just like kind of done, because it's just turning into like an AI hellscape already, like a brain rot AI hellscape. And he said a lot more than that. I'm not even paraphrasing it, but yeah, it's a little concerning. I'm not gonna lie, like it's a little concerning to see what's going on out here. Yeah, that's the channel, Schmidt. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's the channel. And I was sad to see that. I mean, I understood. I'm like, I respect it. And he has like over 2 million subscribers, and it's just kind of sad to see that even people who have reached that height, they're getting tired of what's going on over here. It means loner in German. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. He was talking about how like the fight for views, like, it's, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that sees it, where it's like, people are sinking lower and lower, to out of desperation, I guess. So Have I been following any of the recent crazy AI news with Google and ChatGPT? I've seen the Google VO3, but if there's anything more than that, I've not been following. You'll have to keep me up to date. We have Sean Mitchell. I'm sorry to keep you waiting to read your super chat, buddy. Appreciate your patience. You're saying any of the UK community thinking on getting a PS5 Pro, Smiths seems to have the best deal, a good £60 off, which you told me in my comment section on the video today that's basically like the equivalent of $80 off, and that's really good. Yeah. It's really good because, I mean, you have to consider the fact that the PS5 Pro isn't even a year old yet, right? It's not even a year old, and there's already I would say, a pretty decent sale on it. I mean, it's not 100 off. You're not going to get it for 600, but 650, 640. I mean, that's I would take that, you know? I think the big thing here is if you're considering a PS5 Pro at all, or a PS5, but especially the Pro, you should try to, if you're able to, if it's within your means. You know, don't break the bank doing it, but you should go for it now because Sony did warn that depending on what happens with the tariff situation, they may have to raise the prices of these consoles. And so the sale that we're seeing with the days of play, $399 PS5, $650 PS5 Pro, this might be the last time we see something like this. Genuinely. It might be the last time for like many, many, many years to come. So that's why I'm trying to encourage people, like, if you've been thinking about it, now would be the time to pull the trigger. But, you know, if you're good, you're good. We have Josh Z here with a super chat. He says, nobody should wish for Nintendo to fail because it will mean the end of gaming as we know it, and it will turn into a mess. Nintendo is the only one who shows some resistance to shareholders. Yeah, I mean, the end of gaming, I'm not going to lie. If Nintendo died, I could understand why people would feel that way. I think it wouldn't literally end gaming, but I think I understand what you're saying, Josh, where it's like, bro, Nintendo can't die. What are you talking about? It's Nintendo. Although with the way some people feel about the Switch 2 and the handling of that, I don't know. It seems like some people do want Nintendo to die. What you just said about them being like kind of resistant towards shareholders, though, or showing some level of resistance. Yeah. It doesn't seem that way now because it seems like they are kind of being driven by some greedy decision making. But I have seen those instances, Josh, where they basically are just like no to the shareholders because they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. Now, granted, it creates an interesting dichotomy because it's like, well, if the shareholders want it, you should probably at least consider it. And I'm sure they do, but yeah, Nintendo has kind of shown this slight resistance where they're like, we still just kind of want to do things our way. And I appreciate that. And to be fair, Sony does that too a little bit. You know, I think if Sony really fully caved in the shareholders, like, I mean, completely, I think we wouldn't be looking at games like Ghost of Yotei or Death Stranding 2. So I think Sony's still shown a little bit of resistance, but, you know, to be fair, it's not necessarily that the shareholders are always wrong. It's just that the shareholders tend to follow. It's the shareholders that push the trend chasing. You know what I mean? Like, they encourage it and they enable it. You know, they see what's trending and they look at these companies and, you know, that they're invested in. They say, you guys got to do this too. You know, come on. And it's not like it's always a bad thing. You know, it depends on what trend we're talking about. But nothing I think will ever be, well, I don't know. Maybe the live service situation here with Sony. It's hard to say that, though, with Helldivers 2. I was going to say, I don't think anything will ever be as bad as when we saw both Microsoft and Sony just immediately be like, yeah, we're going to do motion control now, too. Like, to me, that was embarrassing. That was just straight up embarrassing to see because it's like, guys. Like, I get it. I get that the Wii is a massive success, and you probably feel like you have to do this, but I don't know, man. I still think about that story where Sony demanded that Lair do motion controls. Like, they demanded the developer to do motion controls, and they were like, "This is going to make the game bad," and they were like, "No, it'll make it better." And I'm like, okay, like that. See, Sony, like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? The Wii was a gimmick that paid off. Yeah, for Nintendo. It did for Nintendo. And that's why I think Sony and Microsoft should have been smart enough to realize that, bro. Come on. Okay, you're saying how ChatGPT refused to shut itself down when told to, even sabotaging mechanisms that allow it to be shut off. That's wonderful. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me try this again. Oh no. Who could have seen this coming? Right? Like, we were warned about this. We were warned about it. And I will still be frustrated if basically our life in our lifetime it does turn into the Terminator, you got Skynet basically. I will be annoyed at the people who didn't listen. But also not surprised, because it's like, of course. Grok has been doing the same thing. Yeah. Like I said, AI to me is going to turn into one of those scenarios where it's, we're going to look back and be like, we were too busy asking if we could do it and not if we should do it, Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Yeah, James Cameron saw it, bro. That's scary, though. In all seriousness, like, the implications of that are very nerve-wracking. I mean, I watched this video like a year ago. This was a year ago, right? Who knows how much AI has improved since then? Where this was one of the like major warnings that certain, I don't know the names of of these people, but some really intelligent people who were trying to warn about AI being like, the biggest danger is the AI basically seizing control, and we have no way to shut it down. Like they will be able to take hold of infrastructure to a level that it's like you just can't. Well, I'm not qualified to explain it, JMR, but the way it was explained is that essentially it will be able to move around so much that you can't just shut it down. Like, you could turn this server off, you can turn that off, but it's going to be somewhere. It's going to exist somewhere else and just continue, because the only option at that point is you got to drop an EMP. Like, that you got to do a global EMP. We got to go back to the Stone Age, man. We got to start. We got to go back to. We got to go back in time, basically, and start living that way again. We got to live without technology. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Bray gets it. Domingo813, I'm sorry, buddy. I almost missed this. Domingo813 is celebrating his 60-month badge, saying, "I did it. I got my badge."
Holy shit.
That's the third one today. Thank you so much, Domingo, and congratulations. I'm loving what I'm seeing, man. I'm seeing more and more people getting their 5-year badge. I think it's the best looking one. And anytime I see it, I know that's somebody who's been a member for a long time. Tarnish, you're saying YouTubers have been making contentious videos that attract people's attention. They're made to entice strong emotional reactions and volatile conversations, which results in increased engagement. Tension. Very bad. It is. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to be so negative on everything, but it's just, it's so prevalent that it's like, I'm somebody who tries to go against it, and even I find myself falling into the Traps. I don't think I can do any more badges, by the way, Ray, unless YouTube increases it. I think I've maxed it out. Like the final membership badge that you see, like that Josh and Domingo have, they're that's as far as you can go with it for now. But I'm sure at some point YouTube will probably increase it. And Garrett Green, a member for 19 months, says 19 months, not quite 5 years yet. Well, I still appreciate that, Garrett. I still appreciate that, whether you've been a member for a month or a member for 5 years. You guys know I appreciate it. Well, let's not delve too deep into the AI talk. We'll just see how it unfolds. You know, if things go cataclysmically wrong, then okay. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. But what we're going to do is talk about some of these topics. Let's start with Elden Ring Nightreign reviews. So, Elden Ring Nightreign, I'm actually going to put up a poll and ask you guys if you're planning on buying it. I'm still on the fence about Elden Ring Nightreign. All right, vote on this poll. Are you going to buy Elden Ring Nightreign? I have to admit that when Elden Ring Nightreign was first revealed, I felt pretty excited for it. I liked the idea of getting a dedicated Elden Ring multiplayer experience. But then the more I saw of it, the more I was like, you know, actually, I'm not so sure. And I honestly expected it to review higher. It's currently sitting at a 78 on Metacritic based off of 64 critic reviews. I mean, when you compare that to the original Elden Ring and Elden Ring, what's it called? Shadow of the Erd Tree. There we go. Almost forgot it for a second there. Or I did forget it for a second. When you compare the Metacritic score of Nightreign to these two other Elden Ring games, I mean, yeah, it's substantially lower. Now, maybe that's to be expected, right? Because it's multiplayer. And we have Be Ahmed, a member for 17 months, saying, just waiting for AI to translate cat language. Yeah, I mean, see, those are some of the more positive things that maybe AI can do for us. But at what cost? You know what I mean? Like, I may be able to finally understand what boss is trying to say to me, but what price needs to be paid? We're going to talk about that in a little while, Hanzo. It is real. They're not coming. They were going to. They were supposed to be real. We're getting insight into the trilogy, the two sequels that we were supposed to get, and it's a bittersweet conversation because it's like it's cool to learn about it, to hear what they were going to do, and kind of imagine how awesome it would have been. But it feels horrible at the same time because it's like, oh wait, yeah, that's not happening though. What could have been? And Corey the Legend Landiga, member for 24 months, says 24 months, huh? So maybe 2 years. Okay. Well, I mean, if you look at, dude, there are people who have member badges that are, they're beyond even my member badge. I think I have the same one as you, Corey. I have the 2-year member badge. I've been a member to my own channel for the same amount of time. There are people who've been members to my channel longer than I have been, so it's kind of awkward. And Pushing Polygons, member for 25 months, says, keep on chugging with that membership to get to that beautiful 60-month icon. Absolutely, man. Absolutely, Pushing Polygons. Apparently, I'm going to get it at the same time that you and Corey are. Ready at Dawn shut down. Sony can get the crew together again. They could. They could. Will they? But looking over Elden Ring Nightreign, 78 on Metacritic. And it looks to be, let me see. If I check all of the reviews, there's 48 positive reviews, which counts for 75% positive, 15 mixed reviews, which is sitting at 23%, and 2% negative reviews. So there's one negative review. There's one review that's in the red. So what I like to do to start is read the highest rated review and then read the lowest rated. So the highest rated is IGN Benelux. Benelux? I don't even know where that is, to be honest, but they say Elden Ring Nightreign is a bold and surprisingly successful evolution of the Elden Ring we know. With this co-op spin-off, From Software proves that the world of Elden Ring also thrives in a more social setting without compromising on challenge or atmosphere. In fact, the presentation during certain boss fights might even surpass the original, precisely because so much attention has been paid to it. The addition of team play, roguelite elements, and nostalgic bosses from earlier titles results in a game that feels both familiar and refreshing. And they give it a 92 out of 100 or a 9.2 out of 10. So that is the highest review. And if we go all the way down to the lowest review, it's all the way down here. We have Critical Hits, who I've never even heard of, giving it a 4 out of 10. And they say the very core idea behind the conception of Elden Ring Nightreign is flawed. Loop-based games like roguelites completely break the magic of From Software's formula. It feels like a bundle of mods that quickly loses its charm due to repetitiveness, and that's if you're playing with someone who knows what they're doing. If not, the experience gets much worse. So, after reading the highest rated review and the lowest rated, I have to say it makes sense why it's leaning more towards positivity here, because the reviewer who gave it a 4 out of 10, I'm going to be honest, if you read between the lines, it just seems like they're simply saying they don't believe Elden Ring should be multiplayer. Like, they don't like this game because it's multiplayer. And this is why I believe that some people just shouldn't review games, because it's like, well, it seems like this was a person who went in knowing, like, I'm not going to like whatever this is because I don't like multiplayer experiences. And Elden Ring shouldn't be that. You know what I mean? I feel like, I don't know. But I guess it's fair. At the end of the day, there probably are going to be Elden Ring fans who feel that way, truthfully. I'm not saying that there's any, that, you can't have a wrong review. It's just a review. But it's a harsh review. It's harsh. And I think that harshness comes from basically just the fact that, yes, there are going to be people where they loved Elden Ring, they love From Software. This just isn't going to translate for them. This is not going to be an experience that they get on with very well. Nightreign has no meat and potatoes, just fast food. Will, how can you say that, though, if you did you play it? Well, maybe you did. I mean, I know that they did like some network tests. This is its own game. They can still play single player Elden Ring. It's like someone eating a steak, telling you what it tastes like, and then that's filling you up. Alpha, you're saying you played the beta test and enjoyed it, not letting anyone influence me over what I experienced myself. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you're somebody who was able to play the network test, then you probably don't need to even hear anything in regards to reviews, because you already got to play it yourself. Now, I'm interested in the reviews because I haven't played it and I am kind of torn on it. So I want to read a few more here. Let me find a couple of in the middle reviews. So we have Eurogamer. They give it an 8 out of 10, saying From Software's multiplayer spinoff is an exhilarating rush and a celebration of the studio's prior achievements Souls veterans will devour. Okay. I mean, I guess I could try to... I would have to read the full review, the full thing, to understand why they're saying that. But we have Push Square also giving it an 8 out of 10. They say Elden Ring Nightreign is a very interesting game that's likely going to divide From Software fans. It's not the handcrafted RPG that we've come to expect from the story developer, but it does manage to take much of the gameplay depth of Elden Ring and retrofit it into a fast-paced multiplayer experience. While we don't think it really holds a candle to games like Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring, it isn't really trying to. This is basically From Software having some fun with its IP, and with a squad of friends, Elden Ring Nightreign is a blast. See, this is why I think I'm still going to give this game a shot, because that's exactly what I see, right? Like it seems like to me, this game just simply seems like if you liked Elden Ring and the idea of just being in that world with two other people and just basically trying to do, some boss rushing, if that sounds appealing to you, and then getting some loot as well. Yeah, I mean, that kind of does sound appealing to me. The thing I'm actually curious about, and I haven't, it wasn't really mentioned yet, is the difficulty of it. I noticed that so far, everything I've read, nothing has been said about difficulty. Let me see. Tech Radar Gaming says this. They give it an 8 out of 10. They say, despite the lack of crossplay and some frustrating multiplayer issues, Elden Ring Nightreign is a fantastic example of how to reuse and reshape an existing framework into a captivating and addictive experience. By removing a lot of barriers and focusing on combat flexibility, player discussion, and map knowledge, From Software has created an impressive co-op experience at launch. It is also an experience with room to expand over the years as new bosses, characters, and world events are added. What's interesting about what they're saying there is I don't know if From Software has acknowledged that they're planning on treating this like a live service. I think that they kind of mentioned the idea of being open to expanding it, but that's not necessarily their plan right now. If it's just, it almost reads to me like if it's successful, they will. If it's not, they might just move on. Yeah, that's surprising to me as well, Chris. No crossplay. That's kind of interesting. In 2025, I feel like it's unusual, almost just unexpected for a multiplayer only game to not have crossplay. Maybe that's something they'll do in like a update. Game Informer also gives it an 8 out of 10. I'm noticing a lot of 8 out of 10s. It says the reward for my efforts is the mastery, knowledge, and adrenaline I spent dozens of hours building in Elden Ring, condensed into a single run. And every success is as visceral and glorious as the last. The adrenaline and dopamine of a great Elden Ring session are present throughout Nightreign, and it's exciting knowing you're theoretically just 45 minutes away from experiencing these feelings again. Interesting. So whoever reviewed it at Game Informer seems to really be enjoying the actual just the runs, like the aspect of you're on a run, you end that run, you succeed, do another run, fail, do another run, chase after that success again. Let's see what else we got here. What's interesting is so many of these outlets that have reviews posted, I don't know hardly any of them. Area Huegons, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. They give it an 8.5 out of 10. They say Elden Ring is unexpected, out of the comfort zone of From Software, and yet they deliver a compelling and unique experience. Although at times frustrating given its randomized nature, Elden Ring Nightreign feels like a breath of fresh air that From Software can still improve on and add more content to. Cooperation has never been so key in a Souls-like type experience, and Elden Ring Nightreign is proof that From Software is the only developer able to cause a revolution in the Souls grand scheme of things. We also have VGC. They gave it a 6 out of 10. VGC says Elden Ring Nightreign is an overly clumsy attempt to graft multiplayer antics into one of the best RPGs ever. While its roguelike elements may entertain, a lack of variety and uneven combat system ultimately make for a curious sideshow that doesn't come close to the series that shares its name. Ooh. That sounds even more damning than the 4 out of 10, doesn't it? The way VGC just described this game, that sounds worse than the review that gave it a 4 out of 10. The review that gave it a 4 out of 10 just sounded like they're just like, I don't like it because it's multiplayer. This doesn't work for me. VGC saying it's clumsy. They're saying that. They're saying that it has an uneven combat system. I'm about to hold on. I want to check out their full review here. For every Souls player, it's one of or a mix of all these, which is why, despite featuring plenty of tenets of the Souls series and fleeting moments of a high-stakes multiplayer romp, it's disappointing that Elden Ring Nightreign recontextualizes them in a way that quickly loses the magic and pushes the limit of Elden Ring's combat system to a breaking point. Elden Ring is sublime. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is even better. My disappointment with Elden Ring Nightreign does not come from a dislike of the genre. On the contrary, the parts I like about the game are the times it feels most like Elden Ring. The issues are numerous, chief among which is that it misunderstands what people flock to Elden Ring for and makes puzzling design decisions that result in a rare misstep for From Software. Instead of building your own character from scratch, Elden Ring expedites the Souls process by giving players a pre-made character with its own abilities and ultimate power. The 8 characters offer diversity in playstyles, making for interesting team compositions. For example, one character can double all damage done to bosses for a certain period of time. Another can spawn a huge obelisk that can be used as cover or to trap a boss. While there's a certain sadness at not being able to make your own Tarnished, this compromise makes sense in the context that you're talking about 30 to 40-minute matches. The abilities also make the cast of characters, makes each of them feel fairly distinct, a distinction that increases based on how you choose to build your character. Each match begins with 3 players, or 1, we'll get to that, dropping into the map, not unlike a Battle Royale game. From there, players must visit points of interest in order to defeat bosses and acquire runes, which are used for leveling up. These bosses are returning favorites from the Soul series, and some new faces. When defeated, the bosses also drop weapons, spells, or other abilities for the player. After a while, the map contracts, pushing a team towards a main boss fight. Survive this, and you do it all over again the next day. Survive this, and you'll face off against the true boss of the run, the Night Lord. Nightreign's first issue presents itself the more times you play. The opening 30 to 40 minutes of every run becomes tedious quickly. There are a surprisingly small number of points of interest to visit, and bosses repeat frequently. After a while, I could feel my group becoming frustrated, running directly from point to point, defeating bosses and picking up items. You optimize your run so quickly, and you're forced to, which leads to the second issue. Because the spike in difficulty at the end of each run is so immense, it means that your runs have to be perfect, or they're not worth continuing. You have to coordinate with a team to make sure they're running to as many specific points as possible with little to no room for deviation. If you're not high enough level when you reach the final boss of the run, you might as well not bother. Add to the fact that if the game's RNG doesn't reward you with good gear, there's little you can do about it. The lack of flexibility coupled with the time pressure eliminates another element of Souls games that's beloved by so many: experimentation. You have no room to pick up strange weapons and get your bearings with them, because death or wasting time guarantees a pointless run. There are parts of the utterly beautiful map that I wanted to explore, but knew full well that I was sacrificing a boss, or in Evergoal. Evergoal? Is that how you say that? In order to look around. Time is the biggest enemy in Elden Ring Nightreign. See, I'm not gonna lie, that right there, time is the biggest enemy in Elden Ring Nightreign, makes me feel like I'm not sure if I'm gonna. I don't know. I don't know, man. I've played my fair share of Battle Royale, and if there's one thing I can say is that, yeah, that's applicable. Everjail. Okay, sorry. What did I say? Evergale? Everjail. Thank you. I don't know. I'm afraid I'm going to get this game and it's just going to stress me a lot. Because one of the things that I had to do to overcome the challenges in Elden Ring in some instances was grind, you know? I don't know. I kind of wish I would have done the play test. I would have known for sure. Let me continue reading this though. They say really they're giving me an ad. It says in comparison to the main bosses in the overworld, enemies are extremely easy to defeat. Elden Ring's combat was already somewhat broken when you would summon one other player to help you out, but that's an interesting take. So okay, I'm getting some insight into this reviewer. They thought if you summon somebody into Elden Ring, the original Elden Ring, that it would break the combat. I don't think it would break it. It was supposed to make it easier. That was the point. I don't think making it easier breaks it, but all right. I mean, so it says, when you would summon another player to help you out, it would break Elden Ring's combat. But with 3 sentient players, the enemy AI has no idea what to do. The way Nightreign gets around this is by making the Night Lords have so much health and such devastating attacks that it makes pre-patch promised consort Radahn look like patches. These fights are beautiful and feature a few mechanics that are entirely new to Nightreign, but they feel trapped at the end of a boss run. I became sick of doing. Cheap attacks from bosses in Souls games are nothing new, but there's a certain amount of hand-waving you can do about battering your head against a boss run when the time between attempts is seconds. When it's 40 minutes, it's crushingly unfun. I'm surprised they still gave it a 6 out of 10, dude. I'm not going to lie. I'm surprised they still gave it a 6 out of 10. They're being pretty hard on it. You need to give your sweat glands a break. It's not BR. I think it's fast-paced boss rush fight to get yourself geared up and leveled up as high as possible. BR is to play PvP and then end up being the last team alive. Yeah, it definitely doesn't sound like BR. I think it's just the fact that the map condenses. I think that's what that's really. I think that's really like the only. Yeah, it sounds like. It almost sounds like a battle royale, but with the PvP removed. It's like a PvE battle royale almost, where it's like you just gotta find gear, get powerful, and just hope that by the time you reach that last boss, you can you can do it. Another major issue is the game's technical performance. Playing the game on PlayStation 5 Pro, I experienced countless frame rate issues. Regular slowdown and one particular point of interest could reliably bring the game to a slideshow. Wow. That's kind of concerning, actually. Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree both had performance issues, but they're aggravated here by the speed of encounters and the fact that you're usually fighting multiple enemies at once. There are green shoots in Elden Ring Nightreign. In many ways, the game feels like a rough and ready testbed for ideas that could be implemented into future Souls games. The traversal changes are fun, and there's slightly more overt storytelling than usual in these types of games. This is not a Miyazaki project, nor is it a full-priced game. That doesn't excuse its more glaring issues, but it should set expectations for players. Graphically, the game is similar to base Elden Ring, but the Elden Ring art and design is so impressive that even shuffled around, the game looks excellent. Stark vistas, pops of colors, and intricately designed castles and churches are all great to see again, even if by the end of the game, you've seen them a lot. The pre-boss Night Lord arena is also stunning. The game soundtrack is also a highlight. Elden Ring Nightreign naturally requires fast-paced music to convey the precarious situation of the circle closing in on players, and that need is well met. The boss themes and sound design for the Night Lords are also, as is typical, excellent. The caveat hanging over all of this is how you're going to approach Nightreign. If you have a group of friends that is regularly dedicated to playing the game, some of the frustration I felt will be alleviated, partly because any game of this nature is more fun when you can chat over the monotony, but mainly because the synchronicity required for each run is something that could be further optimized over a mic. There is a rudimentary ping system, but matching with random players, in my experience, has very rarely led to a successful run. It's potentially unfair, but it was difficult not to get angry when I'd see another player run off in a different direction from a marked path. There would be no way to revive them if they died. Thus, they'd lose a level. They wouldn't have access to gear we were going for, and they'd likely have fewer flask charges. Having your runs dictated to you like that is not fun, but it's absolutely essential if you want half a chance of beating the Night Lords. As such, it's a game that's virtually impossible to recommend to someone planning to play on their own. You can drop in yourself, and the game scales to that, but it's an experience that's clearly designed for multiplayer. So it scales. That's it. Okay. So I didn't know that. I thought I was under the impression that if you were trying to play Elden Ring Nightreign alone, it didn't scale. Like, good luck. You got to be really, 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 really good. You got to be like pro level, because the game is just 100% meant to be played with other people. You'll get this game if we team up and go for the platinum. I don't know. So I'm reading a 6 out of 10 review. I want to read like a 9 out of 10 review. And I think I'll be able to determine. For once, I'm actually going to let reviews I'm not going to let the reviews dictate if I'm going to buy it, but I'm trying to gather as much info as I can, because I am actually very torn on this game. More torn than usual, certainly. It says here, and I think this is wrapping it up. As I sprinted through Limveld for the 30th time, I was saddened by the thought that this exact same map, with its regularly changing geometry and weather conditions, could have been a setting for a proper Elden Ring adventure. Sure, that would probably expose that large parts of the furniture have been copied and pasted from the original game, but that didn't bother me. What bothered me was all the secrets, nooks, and crannies that I wasn't able to explore. The biggest problem with Elden Ring Nightreign is Elden Ring. The specter of the greatest RPGs of all time hangs over what is an uneven multiplayer experience. This beautiful world and well-designed bosses and architecture fade to a blur as you run as fast as you can from one dot on the map to the next. However, for dedicated groups of 3 tarnished, there is some fun to be had, even if you'll be stuck with the feeling you'd rather be playing a proper Souls game. So, the pros and the cons. Pro, expedited character building works well in the context of Nightreign. Pro, final boss designs are some of the series' best, despite their gameplay shortfalls. Pro, the game is gorgeous and features multiple interesting maps. Con, the game demands you sprint through it. Con, the novelty wears thin quickly. Con, final bosses aren't just difficult, they're straight up unfair. Con, performance issues on PS5. Con, content is repeated constantly and becomes stale fast. Again, it's interesting they gave it a 3 out of 5. I'm surprised by that. This reads like a 2 out of 5. They listed way more cons than pros, but I don't know, maybe VGC was a little nervous. Do you really want to be the guy that's giving it like a 2 out of 5? All right, so here's what we're going to do before we wrap up going over the reviews. I just read a 6 out of 10 review. I want to read a 9 out of 10 review from, let me see. Is The Gamer a good outlet? Are they, I don't know. VGC I know of. I don't know. So we got True Gaming, The Gamer, Gamers Heroes. I don't know what that is. Loot Level Chill. I don't even know who is that? CG Magazine? Daily Star, Digital Chumps. I think a lot of people aren't liking the hurried boss rush gameplay loop. All right, I'll read the review from The Gamer. I'll go with that. They're the only one that I recognize that gave it a 9 out of 10. All right, so full review here. Let me just make sure this isn't like... Okay, it's not too long. So let's see. So The Gamer, their reviewer gave it a 9 out of 10. They say, seeing the Nameless King in the first Elden Ring Nightreign trailer left me with mixed emotions. I was excited to see Dark Souls return in some form after all these years, but also terrified that I'd have to fight Gwyn's firstborn all over again. So when the mist cleared on the second night of my expedition and that oh-so-familiar silhouette reared its head, I was bricking it. A perfect run was about to be cut short. or not. He was surprisingly easy, leaving me with most of my flasks and dignity. Now, whenever the Nameless King pops up in future runs, I breathe a sigh of relief. It's just a Dark Souls boss. We've got this. Nightreign, like Shadow of the Erdtree, is from Software raising its middle finger to the fans who said that Elden Ring was too easy, while simultaneously making some of the most notorious bosses in Soulsborne history look like punks. We struggled with him. Really? Nightreign is a roguelike spin on Elden Ring where you have to survive 2 days, all while a battle royale style circle closes in against 2 main bosses before being transported to a vast desert where you'll face the expedition's Night Lord. Loot enemies and structures are all randomized, making every run feel fresh, and you unlock permanent upgrades known as relics. Okay, that was not mentioned in the last review. I didn't know there were permanent upgrades. That's quite significant. With each match, even if you lose, which allows you to create unique builds for each character. It's an interesting take on the Souls-like formula, bottling the usual loop into short burst rounds. But the Night Lords are where Nightreign truly shines. They each have 2 phases, and when the second kicks in, it's like facing a Shadow of the Erdtree boss. The arena becomes a canvas for them to unleash some of the most stunning attacks I've ever had the pleasure of dying to. Sure, it can be frustrating, but my god, is it beautiful to watch the chaos unfold. And while it's harder to master the patterns, as death means restarting a run, giving you a 40-minute gap between before another attempt, the moves are deceptively simple to dodge despite the pageantry. The trade-off with Night Lords is that these are some of the fastest moving bosses in a Soulsborne game, and also one mistake means taking a devastating amount of damage. But even if you die, you're not immediately sent packing back to the nearest site of grace. You can be revived. So even the rockiest of beginnings can be clawed back from the jaws of defeat, making those final moments as a boss fades into the ether some of the most rewarding From Software has ever produced. What sticks out more than anything about Nightreign, though, is how it finally makes status effects purposeful. You can fight Night Lords with any old gear you scrounge up, but all 8 have weakness clearly spelled out in the Expeditions tab at the Round Table Hold. Locations are marked with status effects on the map, indicating what loot and enemies you're likely to acquire and face, allowing room for nuanced strategy when planning your run rather than having to adjust to whatever's thrown at you. When used against Night Lords, these weaknesses have unique effects that completely turn the tide. Gaping Jaw, for instance, stops leaping around the arena to throw up the poison, giving you a brief window to go all out. Finally, Bleed isn't the only effect worth having. Every bit of gear has its place and value. The downside to Nightreign is that it can sometimes feel like playing Shadow of the Erdtree with only a few Scourge Tree fragments. I think that's how you say that, right? Scourge Tree fragments to hand. Night Lords are spongy, which tends to make each fight a tedious war of attrition rather than skill or strategy. There were plenty of games where it became clear my teammates were exhausted and running on fumes, getting swept up in attacks they'd otherwise perfectly dodge, sending us into a spiral of avoiding the boss. Why is that ad playing? Oh my god. I love these websites where they just have ads. You're just bombarded with video ads, and the least you could do is make sure that it's not just going to spontaneously start playing, and then it just spontaneously starts playing the actual ad, like the audio. It's like, give me a break, man. Anyway, it says, they were getting swept up in attacks they'd otherwise perfectly dodge, sending us into a spiral of avoiding the boss and reviving each other until we inevitably bit the dust. Status effects mitigate this somewhat, but Night Lords are simply too tanky most of the time, which diminishes the spectacle when you've been locked in for so long. It's always been a tricky balance in Soulsborne games. The more summons, the more health a boss has. But when they're already designed to tear through trios, it's tedious. Between matches, you can progress through each of the 8 Nightfarer stories, which are among some of the most poignant that we've seen in a Souls game. Through a mixture of roundtable hold quests and additional expedition objectives, remembrances elevate the intermittent jigsaw narrative of characters in past games like Lucatiel and Salaire into more involved personal tales, which are only heightened further by surprisingly vulnerable journal entries which let you peer beyond the unreliable accounts that FromSoft characters so often give us. Okay, so this is interesting. It seems like, based off of the 2 reviews I'm reading, this game actually has like more story to it. like a more overt story and just more depth to it. Or not more depth, because the From Software games have incredibly deep stories. I guess I just mean like they're gonna kind of just present it to you and put it in front of you. They say it's a layer of storytelling that's unlike what we're used to from the base game, while also sticking with the intrigue and mystery that has kept lore fiends speculating for over a decade. But beyond their narrative oomph, remembrances break up the monotony of each loop as you venture to coliseums to battle it out with gladiators or enjoy quiet contemplation outside the round table hold, painting a bygone world. Not only does it diversify Nightreign's core loop, it also transforms the preset classes, which are already more distinct than ever thanks to their ultimate abilities and unique powers, into truly memorable characters. You can take things even further with the aforementioned relics, of which you can equip 3 for each night fare. Initially, I thought these were useless. A lot of them are filled with stat jargon like +2 in strength or vague improvements to Dragon Communion incantations, which started to feel like a generic looter shooter type fluff, creating the illusion of progression between matches. While the boons do sometimes still feel that way, the more I pushed on, the more I uncovered relics that felt meaningful. For instance, it's not guaranteed you'll find a weapon with the right status effect to take on that expedition's Night Lord, but I had a relic that made my starting weapon deal poison damage, which combined with higher tier relics that boosted my damage around poisoned enemies made the Gaping Jaw far easier. There was a noticeable difference in damage, even just by upgrading my starting weapon rather than looting some of the more extravagant gear. You can also tweak and customize abilities, like making Executioner's Cursed Blade, which essentially functions as Sekiro's deflect mechanic, heal you, becoming more self-sustainable in battle. I'm excited to see how the community mixes and matches relics to come up with builds for each character. Given that you have multiple relic loadouts, it'll be especially interesting to see what metas crop up for each boss and how much the game clicks into place when finding the right synergies. I wrote in my preview that Elden Ring Nightreign was perfected. It perfected the Souls-like multiplayer format, and I stand by that. Reviving is done by hitting your down teammates, which is not only fitting for Souls-like, but far more involved than simply holding a prompt. There's again an element of strategy here, as it becomes a gamble on whether you have the time to damage your allies enough to get them back up, or if you'd be better off on focusing on the boss. I lost plenty of games going for the revive. Sometimes you've just got to attempt a solo clutch. Forming a squad is also far easier than the archaic, needlessly obtuse summoning system, as it works like every other modern multiplayer game now. The problem is that matchmaking was unreliable in the review build. You can invite players directly from your friends list, but it didn't always work. Passwords did, but it was a gamble if you were playing cross-region. We also had a few network errors boot us out of matches, which you can rejoin, but you'll lose a level in the process. Given that the foundation of Nightreign is co-op play, hopefully these kinds or these kinks are ironed out. What's more concerning right now is the lack of cross-platform play, especially for a dedicated multiplayer game in 2025. I understand leaving PC out of the mix with all the hackers that Souls games invite, but Xbox and PlayStation not being able to intermingle is a confusing miss. The lack of duos, which may be addressed in a post-launch update, is also concerning. I found that even when players left, just 2 of us were able to cinch a victory, so it's easy to imagine that duos would be viable to play, just as viable to play in as trios, more than solo at least, which despite the balance tweak still felt incredibly harsh given the lack of revives. Diving into game after game, experiencing that Souls-like loop in a microcosm was unbelievably satisfying, and those moments of victory have never felt better. There are some minor quirks like the lack of cross-platform play and spongy bosses, but on the whole, Nightreign is one of the most inventive things to come out of From Software since it coined the Souls-like genre. So they gave it a 9 out of 10. All right, I know we did a lot of reading there, but I thought it was important to read the entirety of a lower review and the entirety of a higher review, and I'm still torn on it. I thought that would have helped me more. When does Sony have a Summer Game Fest date? So Summer Game Fest, we're going to talk about that in just a moment, is happening on June 6th, and PlayStation is confirmed to be there. So that's the next topic. It's looking like a mixed bag overall. Tainted Grail looking far more interesting. Yeah, I don't know about Elden Ring Nightreign, man, because I'm not going to lie, like the things that Now, I know I only read 2 reviews, but the things that the VGC review is saying in terms of the things that they didn't like were standing out to me more than this reviewer who gave it a 9 out of 10, focusing on the things they did like. Because the things that they focused on that they liked basically were the boss battles. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because the boss battles are the meat and potatoes, the hook of all these games. But yeah, they didn't really say anything about the build up to the boss battle. And the VGC review was basically describing that you got to keep in mind that you're having like a 30-minute build up to each boss battle and you're going to be kind of rushed and you're going to have to optimize it and you're going to have a team that knows exactly what they're doing and you're going to have to hope that when it comes to the randomized gear you get something good. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to like that, because the thing is it seems like even with an optimized build, like you have a great run where you get great powerful weapons and everything's going great, even when you get to that final Night Lord boss battle, it's still sounding like it's incredibly difficult. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, I'm not saying I would expect it to be easy, but just the fact that it's like, no, it's like still crushingly difficult. I'm like, well, geez, man. I don't like the idea of like you could spend 20 to 30 minutes trying to, quickly get through the map, gear up, and like I don't have good enough gear. And it's like, yeah, you may as well just quit now. You're not going to stand a chance. I don't like that. That does kind of bother me. I didn't realize it worked quite like that. There is matchmaking, but sure, any multiplayer game is more fun with friends because you enjoy their company. That's like Returnal, though. I mean, yeah, you're right, and I guess this is why I'm fascinated by the solo aspect, where I don't know if there's a review out there. I would love to get a review from somebody who just played it solo, truthfully. Like, I would love to just hear from, like, yeah, I just played this game solo. I'm really interested in that because it does kind of feel like, since the game does scale up, if you have 3 players with you, everything's going to be harder. And considering how difficult the boss battles sound, I mean, it really sounds like the big thing is you need those 2 other players to know exactly what they're doing. Like, there's no room for error, essentially, or minimal room for error. And you all have to be on the exact same page. And I'm like, well, sounds like you have to rely on your teammates quite a bit. You have to rely on, like, especially if you're not playing with friends, if you're playing with randoms, you got to hope that they know that you're all on the same page and everybody knows what they're doing. I think that that's just automatically less appealing to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm torn, man. I'm torn. I have to admit. You wouldn't count on it being better solo, even though it scales. From said the game is designed for 3 players. Yeah, the last review I just read, they did say that it sounds like it sounds like what they were saying is that it's very harsh on solo. How much legs can a limited scope multiplayer game actually have before it gets stale? You have to play even more efficiently with more pressure because of the timed aspect. Yeah, that's a big thing too. Um, you know, trying to compare it to something like Returnal. Returnal wasn't timed. You could kind of take your time. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. My intuition, like my gut is telling me that I'm not going to enjoy this game. That's what my gut's telling me. Like I'm it's from software that's pulling me to it. It's bringing Dark Souls bosses in and characters. That's absolutely pulling me to it. But in terms of like actually playing the game, like the way the game is structured, I'm really thinking that like my intuition's telling me that I'm gonna try to force myself to like it, and I'm gonna just have to submit to the fact that you're not enjoying it, and you're not. I don't know though. Mm, maybe if any of my friends, if any of my friends want to play it, like that, that might push me over the edge. You know what I mean? Because it's like it is one of those things where I am more willing to try out games that I would naturally not go against, but maybe be less interested in. If in multiplayer games, that is, if my friends are interested in it. That's how I got into Dead by Daylight, and I got helplessly addicted to it. I had no interest in Dead by Daylight, but one of my friends was like, "You got to try this game, man." And he was like, "Trust me, you got to try it." And I'm like, "All right." And I was like, "Damn, I'm glad I listened." So I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to see if anybody I know is gonna want to play it. Garrett, you think FromSoft is overrated? I think some aspects from them, like overall graphical fidelity and performance, I think those things people are more willing to overlook the shortcomings because they appreciate everything else that's being done. But I've seen, there are some things that I think no studio is perfect, right? I did see that, Unico. I kind of fell out of Dead by Daylight. It's been a while since I've been into it. But wow, Planet Schlurping, you think From Software is unbelievably overrated? Interesting. Am I excited for Summer Game Fest? So we'll talk about Summer Game Fest now. That's pretty much going to wrap up the Elden Ring discussion. All in all, if you're somebody who isn't sure about Elden Ring yet, hopefully going over some of these reviews and hearing what the reviewers are saying, and it's sitting at a 78 on Metacritic, hopefully this will help you decide. Hopefully it'll help you more than it helped me, because this is one of those rare instances where I'm like, I need help. I need reviews to help me out, and I still feel the exact same way I did. So hopefully it'll help you guys out. But yes, let's move on and talk about Summer Game Fest. So Summer Game Fest, I'm pretty sure everybody here knows what it is, but for those who don't, if there's anybody who doesn't know what Summer Game Fest is, it is basically Jeff Keighley's attempt at an E3 showcase of some kind. Before we move on, though, let me close out this poll. Let me end it, and I'll make another one. I'm going to try to start making polls per topic. Are you buying Elden Ring Nightreign? We got 279 votes. 68% of you said no. Wow, that's a large percentage of that 279. 18% still not sure. Only 12% saying yes. Wow. I got to say, I was not expecting it to be that. I wasn't expecting those of you saying yes for the number or the percentage to be that small. Only 12%. Okay. Oh, Josh, thank you. Yeah, my thing is muted at the moment. That's why I didn't hear it. Let me read your direct. I'm gonna put up another poll though, real quick. Hype level for Summer Game Fest 2025. We do 4 out of 4, 3 out of 4. All right, you guys can vote on this poll now, and we'll check the results when we're done talking about it. Your hype level for Summer Game Fest 2025. We have a direct donation from Josh, aka Moonshot. He says, I'm seeing certain gaming journalists, in quotes, and gaming outlets refer to PS5 sales as temporary price cuts. LOL, these dudes do the most, I swear. Yeah, I mean, the truth is, it's not technically wrong. Like, that's what it is. It is a temporary price cut. But yeah, this is one of those areas, Josh, where it's like, I'm trying to just be as passive as I possibly can, where it's like, I had to sit here and like for a week straight, about a week, didn't really go much longer than that, but about a week, when Microsoft announced the price increase of their consoles and their games, and their accessories. You know, I had to deal with basically like a week of people being like, well, Sony's next. Sony's next. What about Sony? Sony, you know, it's like, okay. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I get it. I was having that conversation too. But, you know, this is why I'm trying to be passive about it and just encourage people. Like, do not assume that the price drop you're seeing right now, do not assume that it's going to be something that Sony does regularly going forward. And the reason for that is because I think we have until August, if I'm not mistaken. In August, we're going to find out what's going on with the tariffs. And Sony already said that, like, they're in the same boat as everybody else, and they're waiting to find out. They have a stockpile of PS5s, and so they're good on that for now. But, you know, this sale we're seeing, like, this might be, it could be the last time we see a PS5 as low as $400 or a PS5 Pro going below $700. Hopefully, I don't want that to be the case. Hopefully that's not the case. But if I understand you correctly, Josh, I think I kind of understand where you're coming from, where, you know, it's, you know, right now people should be celebrating the fact that during a time, just frankly speaking, during a time when everybody else is increasing prices, Sony has not, and they're doing a big sale. It doesn't mean they're not going to increase the prices. It doesn't mean they couldn't increase prices. It's always would have, could have, should have, right? I'm not, like, this is an instance where I feel like people should not be focused on the whataboutism. They should just be focused on the fact that, you know, there's a significant sale happening, and this might be the last time. So get in while the getting's good, right? I think that's, you know, like, I guess what I'm trying to say here, Josh, there's some room for a little bit of positivity. Like, I saw a comment on my video today because I was covering the Days of Play sale, and somebody, they left a comment, and it's fine. Like, it's their opinion. They're allowed to have this opinion. And I'm glad they commented. It helps my channel. But they were like, this sale is awful. Like, this is terrible. Like, the PS5 price should have been lowered multiple times by now. And I'm like, I understand where that comes from. It's like, oh, I get it. You think it's still 2014. Or sorry, you think it's still like 2016 and 17. You think it's still 2007, 2008. You think it's still, you know, is that one? Sorry, not 2000. You think it's still like 2009, 2010. You think it's still like 2004, 2005. Like, dude, things have changed. Like, you have to get with the program. And I know people don't want to hear that, but it's like, it's all you're like, it's not a, this isn't a matter of you can just bury your head in the sand where it's like, there's a reason why prices are not going down. There's a reason why console prices are not going down. There's a reason why, yes, the only time you're going to see a PS5 at $400 is on a sale. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason why it's not just Sony, right? And I understand people don't, it's like they just want to cover their ears and be like, I don't care about the reasons, it sucks. And it's like, well, then you got to just walk away, man. Because this is the new world we live in. Could it change down the line again? Yes, and I hope it does. But I just feel like there are too many people kind of chiming in where it's like they're not interested in trying to even remotely understand why things are the way they are. And it's okay if it's like, well, I tried to understand it and it just seems kind of wrong. And it's like, that's fine. But at least you understand like what's going on, and you're calling it wrong, and you're forming an opinion based off of a level of understanding, right? Sometimes I just feel like people chime in with this stuff and they don't, like, they have no inclination whatsoever. Like, no inclination at all. of there's at least 5 or 6 different reasons why Microsoft just came out and said we're pricing our games at $80, why Nintendo's pricing their games at $80 and said we're going to have to increase the price of all of our accessories. And there's nothing wrong with somebody necessarily wrong with saying, well, it's just greed. It's that's a part of it. Yes. That is not the only reason. And to try to just condense it to one singular thing, because I know it's easier. It is. It's easier to process it and deal with it in that simplified form. That, to me, if you're going to chime into the conversation, that's not interesting because that doesn't take into account so many other moving, working parts. You know what I mean? That I think, again, if you want to have these conversations, if you want to be somebody who's close to what's going on, and you don't want to be hyperbolic about everything, you need to acknowledge that stuff. And then form your opinion. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tirade there. We're supposed to be talking about Summer Game Fest. But Josh, thank you so much for the direct donation, man. Yeah, I mean, Eternal, that's a good, take care of the necessities first and foremost, and then be picky about everything else. There you go. Yeah, you got to watch out for yourself, man. Absolutely. Take care of yourself first. Marathon is still getting marketing. Yeah, somebody mentioned that. Somebody mentioned that earlier. Mr. B mentioned that. All right, so there are 2 big announcements for Summer Game Fest. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, Moonshot, a.k.a. Josh, with another direct donation says, this generation, we just see talking points that were never a big point of contention before, like quote-unquote money hat or sequels referred to as DLC, stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, Josh, I see what you're getting at with this, and it is exhausting. It is. I don't know. I don't have an answer for how much of that is driven by the need for clicks and engagement. My assumption is a lot of it. And the reason I say this is because if we look back to the beginning of the PS4 and Xbox One generation, and for years into that generation, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, I remember that journalists and those who were those who had influence over the narrative, they had their scopes and their sights on Microsoft and every little move they made. It doesn't matter what they did. And there were times where it was deserved, absolutely, where it's yes, we need to call out the fact that it's a problem that Microsoft has a more expensive console that's running games at 720p, and Sony has a cheaper console that's running games at 1080p. We need to call that out. Stuff like that, absolutely. Certain games. But there were times, and I know this because I was on the Xbox side of things for a little bit last gen. There were times where I know people were going crazy. They were trying to take things that were really, if not problematic, just very minute, and blow it up into a very big thing. And honestly, I do think one of the bigger examples of this is what happened with Rise of the Tomb Raider, where, yeah, it sucks overall. I'm not going to say it didn't suck for them to money hat that. But that was an instance where that wasn't a new thing. For example, during the Xbox 360 era, Microsoft money hatted a lot of games. And people were fine with it. But when they decided during the Xbox One generation they're going to money hat this one game, people lost their minds. And you know what it reminds me of, Josh? Did you ever see that meme? The Office flirtation meme or whatever. I don't know if there's a name for it, but where, you get the handsome looking dude that says like, "Hey Tracy, looking great today," and she's like, "Thanks," and loving it. And then you get like the kind of heavier set, ugly looking dude that says, "Hey Tracy, looking great today," and she's like calling human resources. Like I think I'm being sexually harassed or something, and it feels kind of like that, where people are just going to direct their ire or whatever you want to call it, their nonsense. Sometimes it's not nonsense, but they're just going to direct their frustration towards whatever the most popular thing is to be mad at. You get what I'm saying? Like it's easier to do that because you're following the crowd. And I just think that people, the truth is I think people went berserk on Microsoft for locking down Rise of the Tomb Raider as a timed third-party exclusive because it felt like it felt like people were basically looking at them like, dude, you guys suck. You don't deserve this. Like, this is weak. You know what I mean? Like, you can't make your own games, so you just got to buy these games. But it's like, well, I mean, they kind of did this last gen too. And I don't think many people, and like, you got to ask yourself, like, why were people so okay with it last gen? And you know why? Because Xbox wasn't the bad guy last gen. The previous gen before that, it was Sony. Sony was the bad guy. Why was Sony the bad guy? Because they messed up, right? Like, not even the bad guy, but just Sony was the loser that gen for the first half. And so people were like, yeah, Sony, you suck, bro. Go Microsoft. Like, I don't care if you got timed exclusives. Go Microsoft. I don't care if you got Call of Duty DLC. Go Microsoft. It's the way it is. It paints an interesting picture, right? But it's just human nature, I guess. That's the nature of it all. Lux, you're saying Witcher 3 10th anniversary just reached 60 million sales. That's impressive. 60 million? Damn. Well, good for them, man. Yeah, The Witcher 3 really, I mean, that took CD Projekt Red to the next level. I didn't even really know what The Witcher was at all until Witcher 3, and Witcher 3 really blew up. But yeah, just to kind of wrap up what I'm saying here before we dive deeper into Summer Game Fest, I'm just trying to point out that even though Microsoft did kind of mess up this generation, they don't look like the bad guys. And Game Pass, as well as them, in a way, going multi-platform, these things have made, in turn, Sony look more like the bad guy. And because Sony seems like more of the bad guy, perceptually speaking, it makes people more inclined, again, to just direct their frustration because that's what everybody else is doing, And I'm not saying that there aren't reasons, right? Like, for example, when somebody calls out third-party exclusivity, there's a good reason. There's a good reason. Like, third-party exclusivity does kind of suck. It sucks for whoever's not on that platform. And it just feels like this might be unnecessary. It almost feels like salt in the wound. It's not the same as a console manufacturer saying, we made this game ourselves, and so we made it exclusive for our console. It's not that. And so, again, I don't make a big deal about it usually because it's just like, I understand from the business perspective and trying to add perceived value to your console, that is a viable tactic. But it does feel like, it can feel a little bit crappy sometimes. Well, that's true too, Garrett. That's true too. There's two sides to every coin. There have been developers that absolutely went on record saying that these exclusivity deals, and I've always tried to highlight this, and this is when it comes to Rise of the Tomb Raider, when it comes to Silent Hill 2 Remake, all these games that are timed third-party exclusives, these companies are not putting a gun to the publisher's head. They're not doing that. They're asking them, do you want to do this? And it takes two to tango. They say yes. They take the money. They want the money. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I can't. And here's where I'll end this and wrap it up and put a bow on it, and we can talk more about games that we hope to see at Summer Game Fest. I can't really stand to see certain people today continue to call out third-party exclusivity, but they were okay with Microsoft acquiring ABK and Bethesda. You get what I'm saying? Where it's like the whole justification for, well, we bought Bethesda and we bought ABK because Sony kept locking down exclusives. So we just decided to one-up them. Because the truth is, Microsoft could have outbid Sony on everything. They could have. I'm not going on a rant, Shems. You don't have to worry about that. I'm just saying Microsoft could have outbid Sony at any moment. Hey, Konami, how much is Sony paying you for Silent Hill exclusivity? We'll double it. Hey, Square, how much is Sony paying you for FF7 and FF16? We'll triple it. They could have done that. But they just decided that, well, wouldn't it just be easier to just own them? And it's more expensive, but it's easier. It's more effective overall. It's cutting to the chase, right? I just think people need to realize that if you have a problem with third-party exclusivity, you kind of have to have a problem to a degree with mass acquisitions as well, because there is a difference between them, but one leads to the other. One escalates the other. And this was proven in front of us all when Microsoft themselves admitted it, right? Microsoft themselves admitted that we're doing this because Sony won't stop doing third-party deals. And we're not going to, like, if we're going to have to pay triple for the same deal, we may as well just offer to buy them outright. You get what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, man, it is true that Sony and Microsoft were going toe-to-toe with third-party exclusivity between the original Xbox, the 360, the PS3, the PS4. Sony and Microsoft were going back and forth, and people were okay with this because it was established that this is what you do. This is what they do. Even Nintendo does it sometimes. This is how they fight each other. And, you know, it was Sony not stopping that escalated it, right? Where it is true that Microsoft tried the money hat Rise of the Tomb Raider, but it didn't do anything. You know? It didn't do anything. Microsoft tried the money hat Rise of the Ronin, and they were probably shocked to find that, dude, nobody, like, this didn't help you at all. And that was basically wasted money. And you can't blame Microsoft for trying that during the Xbox One, because that's what worked for them during the 360. Meanwhile, Sony was money hatting left and right during the PS4 generation, and it was helping them dramatically. So it's helping Sony. They're not going to stop doing it. They're going to keep doing it because it's working for them. That's why Microsoft decided, all right, well, let's just go all in then, you know? And the rest is history, as we know. But sorry, I really didn't mean, I did go on a little bit of a diatribe there. I didn't mean to stretch that out so long. It's just what I'm trying to tell you ultimately, Josh, is that once you begin to see how cyclical it all is, and how there isn't necessarily any right or wrong, because it's just simply, where's the money flowing? And for what reason? Right? Business-wise. it becomes clear why you start to see when, the masses, when they become privy to it and they're observing it, you can start to even predict where the frustration is going to go. Like, for example, and I swear this is the final thing I'll say. I'm gonna move on. There are people who think that this is how it's going to be for good, right? Where it's going to be, Microsoft gets more praise because they're doing better things for the consumer, and Sony gets more flack, or Nintendo gets more flack because they're being more anti-consumer. Anybody who's been around this long enough knows that for now, that's temporary. You think Microsoft isn't going to step on 3 more rakes sometime down the line? They will. Just like Sony will. Just like Nintendo will. Just like publishers will. The rakes are always there. It's not a matter of when or if. Sorry, it's not a matter of if. It's just a matter of when. And yeah, so the tables always turn. That's how it goes. Lux, you're saying Microsoft are not looking at 1 to 5 years. They're looking at 10 to 20. Indeed, they are. Yes, they are. And that's why it's interesting to see how some of the beginnings of that, of that roadmap that's probably based on, honestly, it's probably based on closer to a 20-year roadmap, truthfully. It's very interesting to see the beginnings of that and how it's unfolding. Break the Cycle, great album. Is that a Stained album? Like, that sounds so familiar. Break the Cycle. Well, I don't know who. It is Stained, right? Am I right? Yo, I'm gonna be surprised if I got that right. I am right, because I haven't listened to Stained in a long time, dude. I used to listen to them quite a bit. All right, I got it. Wow. Okay, I feel good, because I was really unsure. What was the last time third-party exclusive for Switch, Monster Hunter Rise? I actually don't know. I haven't really even paid attention when it comes to Nintendo. It's been a while. Yeah, I always liked Stained. I haven't listened to them in a long time, though. All right, guys. Summer Game Fest. I'm sorry, we went on a kind of a side quest there. But coming back to Summer Game Fest, and Josh, thank you for the direct donations, bud. There are 2 major announcements. One of them absolutely is directly related to PlayStation. The other may or may not be. So the first announcement that Jeff Keighley made is that Hideo Kojima will be at Summer Game Fest, which I don't want to say is surprising. There have been years, where Kojima did not show up. But at the same time, there were just as many where he did. So we know that, Kojima's friends with Jeff Keighley, but it was confirmed that Kojima's going to be there. What we don't know is what he's going to be bringing with him. Now, he has been teasing a launch trailer for Death Stranding 2 on the beach. But, will that show up here? It could. And the second thing is, we got the full list of publishers that are going to be, publishers and developers that are going to be at Summer Game Fest, partners round 1. So it's the first round. And PlayStation is on this list. Now, I want to say that there are basically 2 things that could happen. One of 2 things that could happen here. One of 3 things, actually. Number 1, the reason why PlayStation's on the list is because Kojima's on the list, and Kojima's bringing a new Death Stranding trailer. So it would effectively kill 2 birds with 1 stone. When we speculate what PlayStation product or title will be there, it's like, oh, more Death Stranding, which is great. I love that. I want to see more. I mean, I don't need to see much more, but I'm always interested in a new Kojima trailer, absolutely. So, I'm super stoked for Death Stranding. Next month is a launch month. If that's what it is, that's what it is. The second thing it could be is whatever Kojima's bringing to Summer Game Fest doesn't relate to PlayStation. And if that's the case, then that means PlayStation's still bringing something of their own. Could it be Ghost of Yotei? I put younger Kratos in my thumbnail because I almost started to wonder, like, is it possible that because this God of War game that goes back to Greece, it's being labeled based off of what's been rumored about it as like a smaller project? You know, is it possible that it could show up here, that could be a kind of reveal that Sony decided to give Jeff Keighley, and maybe it's more appropriate to give it to Jeff Keighley and not put it in a state of play because it's a smaller project and they don't want to like have people be disappointed because it's like, oh, it's not even a full game or whatever. I don't know. That's, you know, it could be something game related from PlayStation. It could be that. Could be Horizon multiplayer reveal. That would actually be a really interesting one. It could be, again, another Ghost of Yotei trailer. It could be Wolverine. I think that's unlikely. It could. I wasn't going to say Fair Games, but actually, I think it's. Well, I mean, maybe it could be Fair Games. Come to think of it, it could be Fair Games. Marathon, probably not. It could be anything. Could be Project Gummy Bears. The second thing I'm speculating here is that if it's not Kojima related, then it pretty much could be anything. But I am going to lean more on the side of something a little bit smaller. Saros, maybe. A gameplay trailer for Saros. The third thing is it could be something hardware related. And I don't mean like a new console or a new handheld. Nothing quite on that, but like a new accessory or something. It could be something hardware related. I don't know what exactly it could be. But I say this because multiple times in the past, that's what Sony brought to Summer Game Fest. I remember they brought I think the biggest piece of hardware they brought was the DualSense Edge controller. That was like a bigger reveal that we got for PlayStation that year, and it happened at Summer Game Fest. No Astrobot 2. It's too soon for that. Horizon multiplayer would be an interesting one. That'd be quite surprising. Resident Evil 9. I don't think Resident Evil 9 is going to show up at Summer Game Fest. I think it's going to show up at the upcoming Sony show. PC port. They could do a PC port announcement, but I'm just not sure what it would be. Like, I don't even know what they would have. Maybe Astrobot, but I'm not convinced yet that Sony would want to put Astrobot on PC. Maybe they would. I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, if Astrobot stopped selling, I would be okay with it going to PC because I want to see it sell more. If it's still selling, you know, and Sony's still marketing it and like pushing it as like a system seller, I'm cool with that too. But I'm not. I feel like Astrobot. That feels more like one of those games that I think Sony's like, if we don't have to put this on PC, we're not going to. You know, like it feels more like there's too much PlayStation DNA there. And it feels kind of awkward, to be honest with you. I feel like Astrobot being on PC would be awkward because so much of Astrobot is celebrating the console and the PlayStation hardware. And it's like, I'm not saying that everybody who plays that on PC, they're not interested in that, but it is a large portion that are like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if you're not interested in PlayStation hardware, there's a layer of Astrobot that would genuinely be kind of unappealing to you. You get what I'm saying? That's true. Yeah, Astro's Playroom, they never brought the PC. That's still a pack-in game for PS5. So, Demon Souls, Gran Turismo 7, guys, are there any other PlayStation titles that came out this gen that are not on PC yet? Besides those two? Destruction All-Stars? I think we just figured it out. Sony's going to be showing up at Summer Game Fest with a Destruction All-Stars PC port. It could be an XDev project. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's probably more likely if it's going to be like a new like first party esque game. So, Summer Game Fest, it's good to know that Sony's going to be there in some capacity. Oh yeah, that's a good one, Mr. B. I forgot about that. Lost Soul Aside could be another title that, you know, they want to show. And there is also the chance they could have a few things. But I'm going to read to you every partner that's going to be at Summer Game Fest now. This is round 1. I'm assuming round 2 will be announced tomorrow, but round 1, we have PlayStation, Xbox, 1047 Games, 2K Games, 505 Games, Amazing Season Games, CSUN Games, Amazon Games, Annapurna Interactive, Atari, Bandai Namco, Bellrig Games, Bloomhouse Games, Capcom, CD Projekt Red, Coffee Stain, Day of the Devs, Devolver Digital, Digital Extremes, Dotemu, I think that's a D, Dreamhaven, Embark Studio, Enhance, Epic Games, Focus Entertainment, Frontier, Funcom, I Am 8-Bit, IO, Keiko Games, Kako, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, Kinetic Games, Kuro Games, Level Infinite, Magic the Gathering. I was just like Magic the Gathering. Megabit, MetaQuest, Mundfish, NC, Nikki, or Neke, I don't know how you say that. NeoWiz. Oh, NeoWiz is going to be there. Maybe. I'm thinking if NeoWiz is going to be there, I'm thinking Liza P Switch 2 port. Nexon, Niantic, just straight up Nintendo Switch 2. Not even Nintendo, it just says Switch 2. Newverse, Pearl Abyss, Playside, PlayStack, as I said, PlayStation, PM Studios. I don't know what this is. There's a logo. It looks kind of like an R. It's not Rockstar. It's not Rare. I don't know what this logo is. There's no words. It's just a logo. So I don't know what that is. Razer, Sega, Soft Reigns, Square Enix, Steam, Supermassive Games, Techland, Xbox, Xola, and Yacht Club Games. So, man, Jeff Keighley has, once again, a lot of parts. I don't think... Is it Remedy? Let me check. What's Remedy's new logo? No, it's not Remedy. Maybe I can bring the image up and show you guys. See if it'll let me do that. Okay. For some reason, it's not going to work. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I really don't. It looks like an R and almost has like a... I don't know. It doesn't matter. We'll find out. It's not Remedy, though. I can tell you that. It's definitely not Remedy. Raw Power Games. Let me check. Yep, that's it. You got it, Ray. Raw Power Games. Okay. What games do they do? All right, good one, Ray. I would have never guessed that. So that was the mystery. We solved it. How about this poll? Let's see. Oh. You think Wes is obnoxious? Wes, are you being obnoxious? That is surprising. No EA, no Ubisoft. Still got a lot, though. Well, I gotta say, I'm not stoked necessarily. I'm not like hyped for Summer Game Fest. The big problem I always have with Summer Game Fest, and look, it's just me. I'm not saying this makes it a bad show. I actually think Summer Game Fest has improved. It's just a Jeff Keighley thing, really, where like Jeff Keighley puts on long shows. You know, they usually go like 2.5 hours, and the nature of the beast regarding long shows is there's just going to be a lot of stuff I'm not interested in. And so it can sometimes feel like the shows drag and there's not, the excitement really starts to wane. Yeah, Sega's going to be there. So, I have a certain level of excitement. What I will say, and this is something that I do want to highlight, is that Summer Game Fest has, I think, a greater chance of being better this year, mainly because of GTA 6's delay. GTA 6 was the game that was looming as the big holiday title. And so once it got delayed to next year, I think it made a lot of these different publishers and developers much more comfortable to maybe, decide I want to reveal a release date for a game at this show now. That's just speculation on my part, but there's logic there. So you're saying you have no life, so a lot of time to watch a long show. Well, there you go, man. I'll be streaming it for sure. I'll be streaming it. Okay, you're saying you want me to read your last message? Wonder if it will be a disappointing year, as developers were likely anticipating GTA this year and may have previously decided to hold back on their reveals. These things are locked in many months in advance. Yeah. All right. Well, that's basically that's the antithesis of what I just said. But you could be right. I don't know exactly how long. I mean, I am assuming there's a certain time frame, like that developers have to submit the stuff to Jeff Keighley for the show, because they do have to pay for it, I'm pretty sure, as well. So you're probably right. Maybe it's more likely later shows that we get. Maybe like something like Gamescom. Maybe that would make more sense. I hope it's not a disappointing show. I mean, we've had Summer Game Fest shows that were, I would say, just solid and good, and like that was a good show. And we've had some where I think there was like one year I just like left in the middle of it. Like I kept the stream on, but I'm just like, I'm taking a break. Like I'll be back, because I was like, there were just so many games back to back to back to back. And I'm like, I don't want to watch this show. It's been like 2 hours and it's still not over. But I'm going to try to go in with a healthy level of optimism. Healthy level being the key there, where I'm not going to go in with very high expectations. I'm just going to go in. I think the most appropriate expectation to have for Summer Game Fest is this is one of the 3 big shows that Jeff Keighley puts on throughout the year. And it's in the middle of summer, or it's in the middle of the year. I think it's fair to have a certain expectation of there should be some good stuff. Yeah, there should be some exciting stuff, some good stuff. Because if Jeff can't make that happen for a 2.5 hour show, if he can't have some exciting things, I consider that a failure, So I'm looking at all the publishers and all the developers that are going to be there, and I'm like, okay. I'm going to be honest, I don't even remember. Was that last year? Was that the year that I like walked away for a little bit? I've been doing this for so long that all these shows start to kind of. I don't really remember Jeff Keighley's shows that strongly anymore. Like it's Jeff Keighley's shows specifically that blend together for me. And I think it's because he does them multiple times a year. You got Summer Game Fest, Gamescom, and the Game Awards. And when I like reflect on 2024, it's like they all blur together. It's almost like it's just one long 6.5 hour show. You know, like I can't really separate. Like the only thing I really can remember is last year at the Game Awards, we got Intergalactic. That was a big one that I remember. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't even remember. Did Sony show up at Summer Game Fest last year? When's my Jeff Keighley invite? Hit him up on Twitter for front row seats. I'm good. No offense to Jeff or the shows. I will. Okay, yeah, that's why I didn't remember. It was really underwhelming. Lego Horizon. Okay, yeah. That was such a weak reveal. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. No wonder why I erased that from my brain. I hope this year's better. I mean, Lego Horizon, it's not like an awful game, but it's just like Lego Horizon genuinely is one of those games where I'm like, why does this exist? Herman? Come on, bro. Chill out. Chill out with the Horizon. No, Dan, I'm pretty sure there were games that I did enjoy seeing announced. I just can't. I don't know. That's the thing, man. Like you have a 2.5 hour show or 2 hour show. Like there's so much shown. It's like I don't even. It all starts to blur together where I can't even. Dude, there are times where I finish watching a Jeff Keighley show and I don't even remember what I saw that I was excited about. I need like a recap. That's how you know. The show's, a 2 hour showcase sounds great on paper, but then you're like, No, but I'll be excited this year, guys. I'm not gonna hype things up to the moon and back, but I'm gonna be excited. I want to, June's always an exciting month. I'm just grateful to have these shows, truthfully. I'm grateful to be able to have the opportunity to stream these shows and hang out with you guys. And, if there's a show that's just really like I've been going out of my comfort zone and I've been streaming these smaller shows that are like an hour long, these PC centric shows. And I won't lie, I didn't enjoy them, but something like Summer Game Fest compared to that, it's like, yeah, Summer Game Fest is much bigger to me. Is the Game Awards the biggest gaming event of the year in terms of announcements? It might be. Yeah. Just by the sheer fact that Jeff Keighley can kind of court every publisher, That's true. There's usually always something for everybody. That's the one good thing about a show being, 2+ hours long. Gaming Survivor, you got big personal news? Congratulations, Gaming Survivor. I'm so happy for you. Ain't no way. Ain't no way, bro. MRPD, you're saying need a new headset for my Pro, 3D audio, and the one that supports Dolby Atmos. Any recommendations? None that is crazy expensive. One that supports Dolby Atmos. Honestly, man, the only recommendation I can give you, simply just because it's what I've been using, but I don't know if it supports Dolby Atmos, is the and I don't know if this is what you were already using. I've been using the Pulse Elite, but again, I don't know. I don't think that supports Dolby Atmos. You might be on your own here, MRPD. I haven't been. Oh, you have a SteelSeries? Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with headsets. It's been a long time. Basically, once I got the Pulse Elite, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I like these. These are pretty good. No complaints. I'm fine with them, I used to be more in the headsets. during like the Xbox One gen, I remember I was always kind of like looking at all the different headsets and I would experiment with all them. But I don't know. As I got a little bit older, I'm like, I'll just settle on something that sounds pretty good, pretty decent. You need the perfect headset for Death Stranding 2, bro. Got the perfect TV for it. I hear you, man. The Astro A50s, I used them before a long time ago. The Astros are amazing, the A50s. Now, I mean, it's been a long, long time since I've used them, so I don't know if they're keeping up, if the quality's still high. Does my Pulse Elite disconnect randomly? It does, but it only does in the last 20 times I've worn it, I think it only did once. But it does on rare occasion. On rare occasion. Pushing polygons, you have a pair of Sony InZone H9s. How are they? Yeah, I never really looked into the InZone headsets. Wait, Garrett, what problem are you talking about? The best gaming headset is Drop PC38X, but it's wired. Still use the Pulse 3D from the PS5 launch. Well, those are still pretty good. I like the Pulse 3D. I like the mic monitoring on it a lot. The Pulse Elite has some mic monitoring, but it's not very strong. The mic monitoring on the Pulse 3D was better. Med says he recommends the Turtle Beach Stealth 700 Gen 3 as a PS5 dongle. Wired greater than wireless. I would agree if I didn't have a cat that constantly tried to bite my cords and jump on my lap when I'm playing games. I would agree. These days, honestly though, man, I haven't even been wearing headsets. These days I've just been, anytime I chat with anybody, I've just been using the controller. And it's interesting because I think Sony really improved the sound quality on the controller mic, because the other night or the last time I was playing, I was like, are you using a headset? Like, no, I'm not. Like, really? Like, they were convinced that I was using a headset. Like, no, I'm just using the mic built into the controller. And they also implemented technology in the DualSense with the mic that drowns out background noise. So I think that they've really improved that, which is good, because when it first launched, it wasn't very good. But yeah, if you want the best audio quality, you probably do need a wired headset if you want the best of the best. But I mean, if you're an audiophile, man, you're going to be paying a lot of money. You find it funny how ridiculous the naming conventions of these headsets are? Yeah, I don't even think twice about it. I just expect it to be weird. Guys, give me 1 sec. I gotta go open the window. Just getting a little stuffy in here. Use a headset for when the wife goes to sleep. Don't want to wake her with an explosion. Whoa. Whoa. Calm down, pushing polygons. It's getting kind of crazy in here. Hellblade 2 has probably the best headphone sound design in recent memory. Yeah, the audio of Hellblade 2 is phenomenal. I definitely, when I first started playing it, I wasn't wearing headphones, which was kind of a mistake. But yeah, because the voices she hears, it's so good. That's what I'm saying, man. Ninja Theory has a lot of talent. Oh, Alan Wake 2 is really good. Yeah, Alan Wake 2 is really good. I forgot how good that game was. Claire 33 audio and lip syncing is so off. Yeah, it's not perfect. Returnal has good sound design. Well, I do wonder if Sony's ever going to make like a really premium headset for PlayStation. I think they will eventually. Like, you know, you have the Pulse 3D headset, which was the launch headset. It was like $100. Then they're like, here's the Pulse Elite. And I think the Pulse Elite's premium, but I mean, I wonder if they're ever going to just like, here's like a $300. Is that what the ends? Yeah, I know that they have like 3 tiers of the in zone. And actually, yeah, I forgot about that till you just mentioned it. So I guess that would be their most premium. What's a high class headset? $500. I mean, they can get really expensive. I don't know like what the most expensive is. I don't know how much audiophiles are willing to pay. I'm sure there's probably headsets out there that are like $800. I'm just not sure what they would do. What's the most expensive headset? Or not even headset, but pair of headphones. What's the most expensive pair of headphones you could buy? $5,000. Hmm? No, that's Boss. Okay. All right. Sorry, I was talking to Mrs. MBG. 5 to 10 grand? What? I need to, like, I don't understand. Like, if you were to pay $5,000 for a pair of headphones, what are those headphones doing? Like, I don't understand. Like, what can a $5,000 pair of headphones do? Come on, you're lying. You've seen headphones that are more than 50 grand? Unknown, bro. Hmm. Oh, man. Those headphones are usually what studios use. I mean, I get that. It's just, I'm curious what the selling points are. Like, yeah, I don't believe it. Headphones costing 50 grand, by the way. Like, 50K? What? 40, 50K just for hi-fi speakers? That's nuts, dude. Yeah. Michael Lynch with the $2 chat says, I just downloaded Liza P. Wish me luck. Well, good luck, Michael. I think you'll enjoy it. You have to let me know what you think of it after you get a couple hours into it. I'm definitely looking forward to the DLC. I love Liza P, man. Still one of my favorite games this gen. And what's funny too is I remember when Liza P was first announced, I was super stoked for it. I was hyped for it the moment it was announced, and it lived up. Absolutely, it did. You can pay $10 at a gas station for cheap China-made headphones and find them awesome sounding. Well, I don't even know how we got onto this topic of talking about headphones, but we are going to move on to the next topic, which is one I'm excited to, well, I don't know if I'm excited to talk to you guys about it, but I'm actually kind of sad to talk about it, but it's very interesting. We need to talk about the Order 1886 and how we're getting new details on what the two sequels were supposed to be and how there was a whole plan in place to make this like a trilogy. You have Sennheisers that were over $2,000, but they do sound extremely different than normal headphones. Yeah, I would have to wear a pair of these headphones, man, to get some kind of idea and understanding of what's so great. But yeah, so let me go over this information with you guys. We have a report here. The Order 1886 sequels would have featured multiplayer and larger scale battles. The Order 1886 originally released back in 2015 exclusively for the PS4 with a it was a single player title, according to creative director, I don't know how to say this guy's name. His first name is spelled R-U. So Rue? I guess. Yeah, I'm not going to try to pronounce this guy's name because I'm going to obliterate it. So this was the creative director who worked on the Order 1886. According to him, a proposed sequel to the third-person shooter would have been even grander, featuring larger battles and even multiplayer elements. He was speaking to, I believe this guy is a YouTuber, so he scored an interview with this guy, and he said that multiplayer was originally in the works for the Order 1886, but it was before the studio decided to scrap it in favor of bringing it back for the sequel. And it's worth noting that the reason why this was probably scrapped was we learned that multiple things had to be cut from the Order 1886 to meet its deadline. They ran out of time, and they were not afforded any more delays. So I assume that's one of the things that got scrapped. But they say here, according to the creative director, a 10-page pitch was written for follow-ups to the Order 1886. Among the new features for the sequels would have been large-scaled battles and multiplayer. Two sequels were part of this pitch: the Order 1891 and the Order 1899. The story for what would have become a trilogy was already mapped out. There were even plans to take the franchise further into the future, with a script also being ready for a story in the series taking place sometime in the 20th century. However, as we know, sequels to the Order 1886 would never be made. Back in February, Ready at Dawn studio co-founder Andrea Piscino had spoken about how the proposals for sequels were ultimately rejected by Sony, owing to the middling critical reception for the game, despite the rejection. However, Piscino noted that the studio ended up avoiding a bullet since working on a sequel would have meant, quote, signing our life away at Ready at Dawn. It would have been an incredible sequel. I can tell you that for a fact, said Piscino. We pitched the sequel to Sony regardless of the critical reception, and in a way, it's better that they passed. If we thought we were going to be screwed before, man, with the sequel, we would have signed our life away. Which is ironic because they ended up signing their life away to Meta, and then they got shut down. But it says, according to Piscino, Ready at Dawn already went through quite a bit of trouble during the development of the Order 1886, including missing out on payments due to missed milestones, which was owed to having to work on different aspects of the game than was originally planned. This largely came about because the shooter was being developed as one of the landmark releases for the PS4 in terms of visual fidelity. Piscino also notes that a sequel would have likely had a smaller budget. We were going to just do it because we wanted to deliver it to the players, but we would have been, and then it just cuts off there for some reason. Terrible budget. Budget would be small. We would have been completely at the mercy of any decisions and things because we had no leverage whatsoever. We were not in a position to negotiate a reasonable contract. They could have done whatever, but we would have taken it because we wanted a chance to redeem the franchise. All the groundwork was really, really good. I can tell you that for a fact. There was so much that just needed to be built on. And so, God, man, I feel like anytime we get new information from developers, specifically like the studio heads, that worked on the Order 1886, it's just more and more depressing, man. Like, I think that hearing everything regarding the Order 1886 sequels, where you have the two directors coming out and saying that we had, a whole trilogy planned, we had the two other games basically written, and they were even thinking beyond that. They were going to add multiplayer, they were going to add larger scale battles, they were going to build off of the framework and the foundation that they built with this game. I feel like I'm assuming it was Shuhei Yoshida who rejected it because he was the head of PlayStation First Party at that time. And for as much as we like Shuhei Yoshida and appreciate everything he's done, because I mean, he's a legend, he's also made some mistakes. And assuming it was him that was responsible for this, I think that, yeah, this was one of their biggest mistakes, because I understand that the Order 1886 had problems. It was too short. There were too many QTEs. Shouldn't have been a $60 game. There were a lot of issues that really, I think, kind of set this game up to review poorly. But if you played the game, right, I think anybody who played it could kind of sense that there's potential here, right? Like, there's raw potential here that if they can just, if they can build off of this foundation and they're given more time, more budget, I don't know, man. I still stand by my feelings on the Order 1886, where I firmly believe that those characters, that group, but also, the world, the atmosphere, the potential lure, this stuff was so strong and so interesting. I think it's criminal that this didn't happen. I think it's criminal that this doesn't happen. The studio is left to their own devices, and they end up ultimately getting bought up by Meta as a VR studio to then just get shut down. That's crazy. Like, there's an alternate timeline out there where Sony did take a chance, make a sequel. The sequel was way better than the first one and really showed the true potential of what this game could do. And this became one of the most successful franchises, where by now we'd be waiting for a third or fourth game. I really believe that. I really do. Sony would be trying to make a movie out of it or a TV show. I see that alternate timeline. I see it clear as day. And it's a shame, dude. It's such a shame, because one of the things I do remember feeling about the Order 1886 gameplay-wise is it felt kind of like Gears of War. It had a heaviness to it. Third-person shooter, you would take cover. I think most people would agree with me that it had this kind of Gears of War feel to it. And I feel like in terms of like multiplayer, since that's something that they were thinking about, like, yeah, dude, this could have been Sony's Gears of War. That's what it could have been. And it's really sad to me that, again, I keep saying Shuhei Yoshida because I'm just assuming he was the one in charge. Whoever made the decision that because it didn't review well, we're just going to move on from it, I don't know. I think that's one of the most short-sighted. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. I do. I don't want to like be hyperbolic about it, but I really do feel that I'm telling you, this would have been a pillar franchise for Sony. And I understand that it's rare for that to happen. Like, I'm trying to see it from the other side as well, where it's rare for a game to review the way that the Order 1886 did. And then the second, if that game gets another chance, they come out and they're in like the high 80s or 90s. I understand that's rare. You blame reviewers for ruining the franchise. Well, let's go check on that. Let's go check on that. All right. We go on the Metacritic. So The Order has a Metacritic of 63. That seems a bit overly harsh to me. All right, let's go check. Let's go check all the critic reviews. So 30 of the reviews were positive, 32%. 53 of the reviews, which accounts for 56%, were mixed. 11 just flat out negative reviews. So the highest review, which I do think is too high, I mean, they gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I'm like, okay. I mean, you must really, I mean, honestly, I would be probably that person giving it like a 9 out of 10. Even though I know it probably doesn't deserve a 9. It's just I love certain aspects of this game so much. But trying to be objective about it. So Gaming Trend says literally no game has ever looked this good. It's strange to even write that, but The Order 1886 raises the bar so far above its contemporaries that it stands in a class by itself, joined by a soundtrack that perfects the mood. The Order is a cinematic masterpiece. That's the highest review. Let's go check the lowest. Go all the way to the bottom. Oh, wow, there's a lot of reviews for this game. Lowest review is a... There's no way there's a 2 out of 10, bro. What? Oh my God. Those poor developers. That's sad. That's sad, dude. I'm on Metacritic, and there's a review for The Order 1886 at the very bottom. Digital Trends gave it February 19th, 2015, a 2 out of 10, saying The Order 1886 is a terrible game. Not because it's broken or made without skill. Certainly not because it's an average length, story-driven shooter with minimal replay value. It's just a bad game, forgettable in every conceivable way and safely ignored by all of the most ardent trophy hunters. Who did this review? I need to look into this. Adam Rosenberg. Wait, no. Yeah, hold on. Adam Rosenberg, 1 out of 5 stars. It looks good as the pro. Cons: too much emphasis on watching over playing. Shooting that makes up the bulk of the gameplay is dull and uninspired. Change of pace moments, particularly stealth, are poorly executed. It's just not fun. That's crazy. See, this is the type of stuff that will always get to me, dude. Is when it's upsetting because it's like this played a role. This person reviewing this game ensured and solidified that, because this person walks away from this game being like, this is a bad game. It's a bad game. To them, it's bad because they got bored and they didn't find and the world of the characters interesting. I get that that's just your opinion, but you giving this game a 2 out of 10, it's that bad? It's 1 out of 5 stars bad. It's that bad. That played a role in killing this potential franchise. And that's sad. That's sad to me because I can tell you right now, I don't care. I don't care how much you dislike The Order 1886. It's not a 2 out of 10 game. If you're giving The Order 1886 a 2 out of 10, you need a reality check. You need to stop reviewing games. Now, I'm not saying you should give it a 7, 8, or 9 out of 10. I'm not saying that either. I'm just here to tell you it reminds me of that review I saw for Helldivers 2. I saw a review, and this was a weighted review. It counted towards the Metacritic. They gave it a 3 out of 10. And I'm like, leave. That person who gave it a 9.5 out of 10, maybe they have to leave too. Because that's a bit extreme. You know? But there's no denying that giving a game that's absolutely nowhere near a 2 out of 10, a 2, is much more devastating than giving it maybe a point or 2 higher than you should. Going lower it hurts games and devs way more than, overinflating it. And it's just a shame, dude. Even giving it like a 5 out of 10, I could understand that. Yeah, I can absolutely see why somebody could. To me, a 5 out of 10 game is a competent game that somebody finds uninteresting and boring. That's a 5 out of 10. Anything below a 5, I think has to start, like, things have to be fundamentally wrong with the game. Because a 5 is just, whatever. Like it's a game that was made and there's nothing like wrong with it. Maybe the worst thing about it is it's boring. A game that's being rated a 3, a 2, or like even a 4, there has to be something fundamentally wrong. Where it's like something's kind of broken here. Like this game was released with something glaringly wrong. Like, I don't know, maybe it becomes complicated when you like, is it because it's too short? I don't agree with that. You're saying regarding gameplay, it was really poor. I didn't think the gameplay of the Order 1886 was bad. I think you could say it was lacking depth. And I can agree with that. It was lacking depth, but I don't think you could say it was bad. The AI was horrendous. I would actually have to replay it to judge that. You could be right about that. It's been a while since I played it. But I just remember the gameplay reminded me a lot of Gears of War. And I like the weapons. I do remember feeling, though, that, like, yeah, the gameplay needed more depth. There was absolutely more they could do. But that bothers me a little bit, man. A fucking 2 out of 10. You know what makes it worse, though? There's 2 other reviews here that gave it a 3 out of 10. Games TM. The Order clearly sees itself as some sort of bridge between the world of games and cinema, but it fails miserably to create the essence, tones, or rewards offered by either medium. Bro, there are games that don't have gameplay. There were games coming out in 2015 that don't have gameplay, like Telltale games. I don't know. Man. There's just something weird looking over this. Slant Magazine, 3 out of 10. The game is our best example that we can play. The game is our best example that we can play a movie. The fact that the movie in question is lead-in unimaginative waste is almost incidental. What? Bro, what? Who are you people? Rise Son of Rome that was a good game, dude. That was another game. What's up with what? Who are these people? I gotta tell you, man, like reading this, like Slant Magazine, 3 out of 10. It's basically a game movie, but the movie and the story is unimaginative and a waste. Okay. I don't know, man. I just think it's strange. I'm not saying the Order 1886 is the most unique. You want me to compare it to Uncharted 1? Uncharted 1 Metacritic. Let's go see. So looking at Uncharted 1 got an 88. Let me go, and that was based off of 66 reviews. The highest review is a 10 out of 10 from Play Magazine, saying Naughty Dog uses the PS3 to reinvigorate the adventure gaming experience, combining key elements that every game holds dear in a game that looks and feels like a blockbuster film. And the lowest review of Uncharted 1 is... Wow. So almost every review at the bottom gave it an 8 out of 10, and there's just one mixed review. And the one mixed review is a 67 from the AV Club. And they say problem is when it comes to movie style storytelling, Uncharted is more Sahara than Raiders of the Lost Ark. All right. 9 out of 10s everywhere. 8 out of 10s everywhere. It should have been a 69. I don't remember Uncharted reviewing this well, though. I got to be honest. Like, I don't remember Uncharted sitting at an 88 on Metacritic. Why don't I remember that? Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention at the time. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm always going to be frustrated. When are vampires and werewolves not cool? I laugh because I understand that Sahara reference. I think I do too. Wasn't that the movie with Matthew McConaughey or whatever? I think to me the Order 1886 is a solid 7 out of 10. But but if like somebody said I see it as like a 6 or a 5, I understand that. I don't think the Order is anything lower than a 5 out of 10. I think you're crazy. Truthfully. Like I think if you think the Order 1886 is less than a 5 out of 10, then I just don't understand how you could come to that conclusion. I just don't understand it. I'm not trying to like run defense here too strongly. I just don't understand it. Like even if you're mad that it's short, what about a 4.9? That's going to annoy me even more. Bad gameplay. But all right. What about the gameplay is bad though? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because I like read these lower reviews and they're making it sound like this gameplay is horrible. And I'm like, it's at worst, it's okay. It's okay. Like it's competent enough to where I feel like the worst thing you could say about it is it's a little boring. And maybe for some people, boring does equal bad, but I don't know. To me, bad is it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting overly defensive, but it's just, it's tough to see this, man, where I'm getting this news today. Oh my God, there's so many 4 out of 10s. There's so many 4 out of 10s, bro. Washington Post, 4 out of 10. Although the storyline invokes weighty subjects like colonization and socioeconomic inequality, it fails to address these topics in any substantive way. Ditto the game's dialogue, which contains flourishes of eloquence that flounder because, as pleasing as the words are to the ear, the actions they affect have no... What? What even are you saying? Bro, what are they even saying in this 4 out of 10 review? Oh my God, dude. I'm glad I'm not a developer, dude. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine like trying to passionately create a game for years of your life to then read something like this. Piper with a $5 super chat says, compare it to Ghost. Ghost got bad reviews as well, but somehow now it's the GOAT. Well, the difference is, Piper, is and I did look over Ghost of Tsushima's reviews, and there were a couple at the bottom that I'm like, oh God, like, what are you talking about? But the biggest difference between the Order 1886 and Ghost, and frankly, they are two very different games. They're difficult to compare, but they're two different. There's so many 4 out of 10s here, dude. There's a lot of 5 out of 10s and a lot of 4 out of 10s. And Ghost doesn't have that. Ghost has like one or two, I think, outliers. The worst you see are a lot of 7.5s, I think, for Ghost. A lot of 8s. And I think Ghost of Tsushima, if I'm not mistaken, sits at about an 83. And I think for a lot of people, that feels appropriate. For me, and I've expressed this before, Ghost of Tsushima is like a 9 out of 10 for me. Closer, maybe even higher, to like a 9.5, maybe even a 10 out of 10. Like, I think Ghost of Tsushima reaches certain heights with some of the things it does at times. I'm like, this feels like a 10 out of 10. But it also has some imperfections that, again, I acknowledge these imperfections and some areas that are a little bit weaker where it's like, I could understand why somebody would be like, for me, Ghost is a 7 out of 10 or a 7.5 out of 10, where I'm like, okay, I don't agree with that, but I understand how you could see it that way. It's when I see a review for Ghost of Tsushima that's like, this is like a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. I'm like, what? I mean, what is going on in this game? What is going wrong in this game that you think it warrants a 6 out of 10, dude? You know? And I understand. I understand that it's like, well, these are all just opinions, and I get it. But it's times like this I get upset where it's like, I want the Order 1891. I want to play that right now on my PS5. I want the Order 1899. I want to play it right now. The user score speaks volumes. Oh, wait, yeah, what is the user score? Wait, are you talking about the user score for the Order or the user score for Ghost? I don't know what the user score is for I'll have to check that in a minute. For Ghost. Well, yeah, I mean, that was interesting to see too. Ghost's user score is like one of the highest out there. By the way, guys, do me a favor. If you're enjoying the stream, enjoying the discussions, please take a moment and hit that like button. We're very close to hitting 150 likes. It definitely helps the streams. Did you see The Last of Us Part 2 outsold Doom the Dark Ages? I did. Well, yeah, I guess technically it did. I saw that apparently The Last of Us HBO Season 2 caused a sales increase of 2 million for The Last of Us Part 2. And that actually comes from LinkedIn. I don't know who the individual is, but it's somebody who has that data. And that's nuts. That's actually nuts. Like, I still kind of don't believe that. I'm like, what's the caveat here? Like, there has to be something. 2 million? That's better than probably what they're doing on PC sales. Well, although that's probably partly on PC, but it's just, I don't know, man. Like, what? That's surprising to me. I wouldn't think that the show would have that much influence over people buying the game. I mean, if that data is true, which it seems like it is, Sony's strategy is working. 2 million is nothing to scoff at, dude. Not at all. The reviewer industrial complex. I love that terminology. The reviewer industrial complex has tainted many great games with terrible reviews and vice versa. It has, man. It has. It's all fun and games till your game gets trashed. Yeah. I wish it would just go away. I do. I wish review scores would go away. I do. I just think everything would be better without review scores. Because whittling everything down to just a number clearly does damage. That is, there's just, I don't know. I just think that these things that we're trying to discuss and engage with are too complex to just whittle down to a single number. I think it deserves more than that. Yeah, I think the Order 1886 probably could have done better if it shipped at $40. Edge Magazine gives The Order 1886 a 4 out of 10. Despite the obvious talent at work here, the studio has chosen to bury the Order's potential under a bunch of disassociative QTE focused. Why am I having trouble reading this? QTE focused game design that's as stifling as the smog that creeps through the Victorian streets. Dark Zero, 4 out of 10. Regardless of quantity concerns, which is a valid complaint, where the Order more crucially falls apart is in regards to quality. It does not matter if a game is 1 or 100 hours long. You need to enjoy playing it, and the Order fails at the most crucial of tasks. This is unforgivable and instantly makes it impossible to recommend. Twin Infinite, 4 out of 10. It's just a massive disappointment that failed to break new ground. It's a shame because you can tell that a great deal of effort went into building this alternate version of 19th century London, and boy, is it gorgeous. But are the beautiful visuals enough to justify the purchase of a game with a cliched story, uninspired gameplay, and boring werewolves? Okay. All right. I'm getting triggered. Boring werewolves? That's what that was. That's what that was. What about zombie games that do well? Are zombies not boring? I should just stop. You would think I was a developer working on this game. Boring werewolves. All right, let's see. Game Revolution, 4 out of 10. Perhaps someday Ready at Dawn could develop a sequel that's gorgeous and fun and lives up. But what do you mean gorgeous and fun? The game is known for being gorgeous. Oh, God. Oh, God. And lives up to the promise of the Order 1886, fingers crossed, but today is not that day. I just read a 4 out of 10 review where they said maybe one day they could make a sequel that's gorgeous. I'm sorry, come again? Bro, the Order 1886 still holds up as one of the best looking games. I'm not saying that's all that counts. I'm just saying, how are you going to use that as a negative? All right, Gaming Survivor. Thanks for hanging out, man. We need exciting werewolves around here. Yeah, we do. Might as well spit in their face with that comment. Giant Bomb gave it a 4 out of 10. It's a technical showpiece, a graphical powerhouse that in some ways is almost without equal. It's also short and disappointingly straightforward. It's also a short and disappointingly straightforward cover-based shooter that offers little to no variety in its encounter design. A lackluster story that fails to make good on its initially compelling premise, and a set of jarring quick-time event set pieces that aren't especially interesting from a gameplay or storytelling perspective. So, I agree with... See, the one thing... This is what's interesting to me. Giant Bomb, with their 4 out of 10 review, actually gave a really good explanation as to why they're giving it a 4 out of 10. But the one thing I can't agree with is they say the lackluster story that fails to make good on its initially compelling premise. That to me is where I would disagree, to where I think the Order had a good story. And I think that's why I could understand, like, if you thought the gameplay was lackluster and the story was bad, I could see how you could come to a conclusion like this. But I thought I'm not saying the story was like the best I ever. No, it wasn't that. But I thought the characters were very interesting and the premise was very interesting. And they did end it on a cliffhanger. So I can understand that there wasn't as much payoff as you would have liked, but I thought it was really good. I don't know. It did end abruptly, yeah. Metro Game Central, 4 out of 10. Beneath the technical wonders, just a dull, aimless Gears of War clone. The storytelling is just as boring. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Metro Game Central. You're definitely my go-to. Whatever, man. Yo, even the official PlayStation Magazine UK gave it a 5 out of 10. What? Guys, you have a free pass to be biased, and you still mess it up. What? Hold on. They say visually it's everything you could have hoped for, but the compromise is required to reach that fidelity. And moments of narcissism as a result of it are hugely damaging. Dude, did they just... Hold on. Did they just list narcissism as a negative? As like a negative point for this game? What does that even mean? I'm being serious. Like, I've never seen the word narcissism used to describe a video game when review. Like maybe in MGS Ground Zeroes, when you have to do a mission where you rescue Hideo Kojima, the man put himself in the game and said, "You got to rescue me." I could understand how that term could be used. The studio head, but how? Like, was there something going on with this game? Was there something going on with this game, like behind the scenes, or you'd say? Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't understand. That's from a dude. That review I just read, by the way, is from PlayStation Magazine UK. Well, Shems. Shems. Easy now. Wes, easy. You're trying to get my head to explode. You give it a -5. You don't think that magazine exists anymore? I don't think it does either. This is sad to see, man. That's a shame. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to dwell on it much longer because it is what it is. But I don't know. I have no more hope, truthfully. Like, I feel like there were maybe some chances along the way that maybe Ready at Dawn could have struck another deal with Sony. Sony would be more willing to give the Order, a sequel to the Order 1886 a chance, but I think it's just over now. I do. I mean, I don't see how they could do anything. Ready at Dawn shut down. I think most of that team formed another studio, and they're making their own game now, which I'll definitely check out. But you like this content of looking at reviews of old games? I don't do it that often, but it's usually for games I really care about. I mean, we were a lot of today's stream was based on review, looking over reviews. One for a new game that just came out, one for a game that came out 10 years ago. But yeah, it just feels so terrible to hear the plans for it really reminds me of Days Gone, dude. And it's just painful where it's like, bro, Sony, you had these games where I just feel like they should have just stuck with them. They should have. No, Simon, you won't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. The stream, yeah, no, they're not going like private or members only or anything like that. They'll be here. The stream will be up for everybody. Yeah. You think that some people felt like it was going to be a God of War level game, but it ended up like a Hellblade 2? Yeah. I mean, there's also maybe some fault for Sony, right? Like, maybe Sony should have read the room or been, smart enough to understand that if you don't drop the price of this game, like, you might lose a little bit of money on it up front, but it's going to have no chance, if you don't make it a $40 game. And maybe they were afraid to do that because it's like, if we do that, what signal are we sending? Because it is true that this game, the one thing I do remember about the Order 1886, it was hyped up as like a big marquee title for the PS4. And so if they were coming out and like, it's $40, like, it definitely ran the risk of suddenly killing a lot of the hype, but maybe that needed to happen. If they killed some of the hype, it probably would have negatively affected sales, but I would make the argument that you kill the hype yourself and you control the message before it's out there, because it's going to be out there. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to find out this game's like 8 hours or 7 hours or something. People are going to find out it's QTE heavy. People are going to find out that, you know, it's a pretty simple game overall. And honestly, like, you know, you mentioned Hellblade, and that's the credit I'll give Microsoft for now, unless something happens. Microsoft is going to let them make a Hellblade 3. And this is where I do wish that Sony would be more willing, where it's like, my big thing about Hellblade 2 is the same thing I feel about the Order 1886, which is I like the Order 1886 more. I think I just like the world of the Order 1886 more. But Hellblade 2, it's like, dude, if you guys are given the room to expand this, it could be the next big thing. It really could. And I don't know if Microsoft is like going to push Ninja Theory to be like, you guys are going to have to make Hellblade 3. We're going to give you more money, but you got to make Hellblade 3. It's got to be like a 15 to 20 hour big romp, right? Like, I mean, a long game, big adventure, and there's got to be a lot of substance gameplay wise, right? A lot of depth. That's what we want you to do. Keep, you know, stick with what you're doing with the story, character building, world building, visuals, audio, all that. Just focus more on gameplay now. If they did that, I'm telling you, I think Hellblade could blow up. It could. It could become huge. Will Microsoft push them to do that? I didn't say 30. You think it's a horrible take? Well, all right. To be clear, they don't have to make it 15 or 20 hours. I'm just saying, like, add more meat to the bone, gameplay-wise. That's what I'm saying. Add more meat to the bone, gameplay-wise. And I think if they do that, it really could be bigger. Hold on. You don't understand how they improved on the combat, though? I mean, I don't know. The combat in Hellblade 2, it was okay. It was good. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't like bad. It just felt like it didn't have enough depth. That's all. At least in my opinion. But I feel the same way about the Order 1886, man, where it's like, I don't know. I just keep repeating myself at this point, but Sony should have stuck by Ready at Dawn. And Sony should have been willing to give them a proper second chance. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they still would have failed with the sequel and it wouldn't have been much better. But everything that the studio said, everything that we've learned, where, like, you know, there were a couple of development issues and they had a deadline to hit and they missed a couple of milestones where they were struggling, you know, and I get it. Like, Sony has to maintain that cadence where they can't just let developers take forever and just continue to dump money. I get that. So there is maybe like certain things that would have had to improve on the development side with Ready at Dawn, but I just think the end result would have been worth it for Sony. You know, when you look at what Sony values in their single player games these days, they value big AAA titles, a lot of spectacle, really good looking games, cinematic games, games that can be turned into big pillar franchises. I think the Order 1886 fit that to a T. I do. But it's water under the bridge now. And so, you know, this news that came out gave me an excuse to kind of return to the conversation surrounding this game. Maybe not the most exciting topic, but one that I was definitely interested in discussing with you guys. Pragmatic Hat, you're saying cut the QTEs, cut the 21x9 black bars, make it 15 to 20 hours. Maybe we'll get a spiritual successor from a different studio. Yeah, Ready at Dawn, I think the studio, not only did Facebook buy them, but I think they were shut down, or they were shut down. Saying the combat wasn't meant to have depth. It was supposed to be Senua using being an untrained human and not some Kratos figure. I mean, I know, I get it. I just accept that I didn't vibe with it the way that I was hoping I would. The one thing that really, I will tell you, like, when it comes to Hellblade, I love the ending, like the build up to the ending. And the ending was awesome because I think that, the story, it's a very, I think it's a provocative game, like there's a real story there. They're tackling, I would say, deep subject matter that's very human, and I appreciate that. I do. Like, I absolutely appreciate it. And it was a little bit disappointing to see that the conversation on Hellblade 2 took a little bit of a backseat because of that, because people were more focused on the shortcomings, which it's hard not to focus on those things, but I love the story of Hellblade 2, and I like what they did with the characters. I do think that Ninja Theory nails one of the core, like, pillars, like foundational pillars of what attracts me to a game, and that is they're really good at writing characters. Like, I mean, and writing these characters, creating interactions with characters that I find compelling. EA just canceled the Black Panther game and shut down the studio. Wonderful. Isn't that great? I'm being sarcastic, of course. Let's go check that out. Damn. Hold on, let me see if it'll pop up. EA Entertainment is focusing on fewer franchises moving forward. I see Black Panther's trending. Hold on. Yeah, so the Game Awards account, it's the first account I see. The single-player Black Panther video game has been canceled at Electronic Arts, and Cliffhanger Games has been closed. Cliffhanger Games. What are they known for? What else is Cliffhanger? I can't find any games that the studio worked on. Does this studio have a history? Like, because if they do, I can't find it. It's a new studio founded by Monolith Leads. Oh, okay. Well, that would explain it. No, I don't. Marvel 1943 isn't going to get canceled. It's very deep in development, and it just got delayed to 2026, though. I mean, I feel bad for the developers in the studio. That sucks. I can't imagine finding out your game just got canceled and your whole studio shut down. That sucks. But at the same time, from a consumer perspective, I can't say I was remotely interested in this game. Not at all. You didn't even know there was a solo title for Black Panther in development? I think it's been known for like 2 years, but I had no interest in it, which is, I feel lucky in that sense, where I would be devastated if that was something I was anticipating. Like, if this was like Wolverine, I would have been devastated. You were looking forward to that game quite a bit. That's a shame, man. They never showed anything. No. So I think the only thing that ever happened was it was like kind of low key announced. So 1 year ago, new EA studio. Okay, so it was a new studio. That's why I couldn't find any history. Cliffhanger Games announces upcoming title based on Marvel's Black Panther. So this was published July 10th, 2023. Wakanda Forever. As we celebrate the 57th anniversary of Black Panther's comic debut this July, we're thrilled to announce Cliffhanger Games, a new AAA development studio based in Seattle, is working on an original third-person single-player Black Panther game in collaboration with Marvel Games. Their mission is to build an expansive and reactive world that empowers players to experience what it is like to take on the mantle of Wakanda's protector, the Black Panther. Led by Kevin Stevens of Monolith Productions, Cliffhanger has already brought together accomplished talent with leaders from the critically acclaimed and innovative action-adventure game Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, and Monolith actually shut down too, along with veterans of top franchises including Halo Infinite, God of War, Call of Duty, and others. We're dedicated to delivering fans the definitive and authentic Black Panther experience, giving them more agency and control over their narrative than they have ever experienced in a story-driven video game. Wakanda is a rich superhero sandbox, and our mission is to develop an epic world for players who love Black Panther and want to explore the world of Wakanda as much as we do, said Kevin. The development team at Cliffhanger Games will be working in partnership with Marvel Games to ensure that we craft every aspect of Wakanda, its technology, its heroes, and our own original story with the attention to detail and authenticity that the world of Black Panther deserves. It's an incredibly rare opportunity to build a new team around the values of diversity, collaboration, and empowerment, said Kevin. We want our game to enable players to feel what it's like to be worthy of the Black Panther mantle in unique, story-driven ways. And we want Cliffhanger Games to empower everyone on our team as we collaborate to bring this amazing world to life. So that was the write-up for the announcement. Now, do they have a write-up for the announcement of its closure? Let's see. So IGN reports today Electronic Arts is canceling its planned Black Panther game and shutting down developer Cliffhanger Games. In an email sent to staff from EA Entertainment President Laura Mayel said that these changes, along with other recent cancellations and layoffs, are being done to sharpen our focus and put our creative energy behind the most significant growth opportunities. In addition to closing Cliffhanger and canceling Black Panther, EA is also laying off some individuals on both its mobile and central teams. When asked for an exact number of individuals impacted, EA declined to comment. IGN understands that the total number of affected individuals in this wave is less than roughly 300 roles. Less than the roughly 300 roles that were cut across Respawn and EA's fan care teams, but cannot confirm by how much. These decisions are hard. They affect people we've worked with, learned from, and shared real moments with. We're doing everything we can to support them, including finding opportunities within EA where we've had success helping people land in new roles. Well, damn, dude. Yeah, that sucks. That really sucks. I wonder why, I wonder why it was canceled. Do you think it was just not coming together well? Just not working? Was Blade announced last year or 2 years ago? I think Blade was announced at the Game Awards 2023. Pretty certain that's when it was announced. So this December, it'll be, I think, 2 years. I wonder if we'll see it at the Xbox Showcase. I think too expensive. I mean, they have an Iron Man game in development too, by the way. You think they canceled it because it was too woke? I doubt that. I mean, that would be a hell of a reason to can't. It's unlikely. No, I don't think that they wouldn't just flat out cancel a game for something like that. They would tell them to stop. They would tell them to make certain changes. A game being canceled like this after multiple years of development tells me that just fundamentally it was just not coming together. Yeah, I don't know. That's a shame, dude. Jez is suggesting we will likely see State of Decay 3 at the Xbox Showcase with a possible launch next year. That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, that game's been in development for a long time, dude. So I hope we see it. I hope it comes to PlayStation. That's a game that if it doesn't come to PlayStation, I will play it on PC or get an Xbox or whatever. But I'm assuming it'll come to PlayStation. I'll buy it. Yeah, State of Decay 3. The one thing that makes me nervous about State of Decay 3 is they lost their studio founder a while ago. Jeff Strain. I think that was his name. So I don't know what that means for State of Decay 3, but I'm still rooting for it, you know. There was a controversy about an employee saying that they won't hire people based on their ethnicity or something. Are you talking about State of Decay 3 or the studio Undead Labs? Let me see. Oh, I forgot he left in. Wow, okay, that was a long time ago. Possibly Space, the studio founded by State of Decay producer Jeff Strain, has reportedly shut down, with Jeff Strain blaming the closure on confidential leaks by employees. Strain, who co-founded Guild Wars developer ArenaNet before establishing State of Decay developer Undead Labs in 2009, announced the formation of Possibility Space in October 2021, describing it as a modern kind of game studio where we are creating a joyful game that's been my dream for many years. The announcement also confirmed that Jane NG, lead environment artist on Campo Santos Firewatch, as well as artist on Half-Life Alyx, has joined the studio as visual director. What were the emails that were leaked? Strain has yet to publicly comment on reports of Possibility Space closure, but an email sent to staff ahead of their dismissal, as shared by Polygon senior reporter Nicole Carpenter, adds a bizarre new twist to the events. In the email, Jeff Strain blames the studio's closure, on alleged leaks regarding Possibility Space's project Vongut. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Late last week, I received a list of topics from Ethan Gatch, a reporter at Kotaku, regarding an article he's writing about Possibility Space parent company, Prytania Media, Strain wrote. I was stunned to see non-public information about Project Vongut. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Disclose of our publishing partner with details of our business and financial relationship and details of internal P&L discussions and confidential all-company meetings. Leaks of this nature are typically malicious and done by outside hacking. So to see internal team members under a confidentiality agreement engaging in this was shocking. He then claimed that after disclosing the information breach with the studio's publishing partner, they expressed low confidence they would be willing to invest the additional resources needed to complete the game. So we mutually agreed to cancel it. As a result of the cancellation of the publishing relationship and after careful consideration, I am closing Possibility Space. Today is our last day of employment with Possibility Space and Prytania Media. Notably, Possibility Space closure comes just weeks after. That's really what? There has to be more to that. Windows Central has an article up about the Xbox Showcase. Maybe I'll bring that up on an upcoming stream as we get closer to it. I'm assuming there's nothing being leaked, right? But there has to be more to that situation, because that's really weird. Like, he's just like, hey, I'm really annoyed that somebody or a few people leaked this confidential stuff. I'm canceling this game now, and we're closing the studio. F y'all. Like, there's got to be more than that. More to that. That doesn't add up. But who knows? That actually happened longer ago than I realized. Jeff Strain hasn't been with Undead Labs for quite some time. Oh, guys, look. Leia found the catnip. Enjoy her insanity. I think she's about to get real weird. She's about to get really weird. Or not? Okay. All right. I guess she's just going to chill. You sure you don't want to get weird? I guess that depends on if you have FU money. I mean, he probably does. Yeah. What's Undead Labs dev count? It's a good question. I mean, on LinkedIn it says company size between 51 and 200 employees, so that's not really. What's interesting is on State of Decay 1 was shipped with 20 people. State of Decay 2 was shipped with 65. So I imagine they're bigger now. Probably more than 65. I would assume that maybe like 100 or something. Yeah, Beast Mode, the Black Panther game was canceled. Sadly. Amy Hennig was actually a consultant on Forspoken. She gave them ideas on characters and the world and lore. The parts she consulted were the best parts. That's as far as her role went. I forgot about Forspoken, man. That game was a flop, seemingly. And I remember that was a game that was announced like towards the beginning of the PS5 gen, and it seemed like it had a lot of potential. I don't really game on PC, no. My PC, I can game on it. It's certainly capable. Did I play State of Decay 2? Is it worth going back to? I can't say if it's worth going back to. I did play it and I enjoyed it, but it didn't really build upon the first game as meaningfully as I hoped it would. That's why I'm really kind of looking forward to State of Decay 2. Because I don't know. It's hard. State of Decay is another one of those things where it's like the game has so much potential to do so much more. I think they're going to do it. I could be wrong, but. All right, guys. So I realized that we just went over the 3.5 hour mark. So here's what we'll do. We're going to do like a last call. If you want to drop any more support, we're sitting at 50 members on the day, which is awesome to see. If you want to add to that, if you want to drop any more member gifts or become a member, feel free to do so. Any more super chats or direct donations. We're going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to end this poll here, seeing how you guys are feeling about Summer Game Fest. So, hype level for Summer Game Fest 2025, 345 votes. 3 out of 4. 33% of you voted for 3 out of 4 hype level. 28% of you voted for 2 out of 4. So you're at like 50%. 25% saying 4 out of 4, which is higher than I would have expected. Only 12%, 1 out of 4. So I'd say there's a decent amount of hype from you guys for Summer Game Fest this year. There's a decent amount. Absolutely. Oh, something I'm not going to talk about it on this stream since we're about to wrap it up, but Mind's Eye. Well, when I say I will talk about it, I'm not going to react to it, but did you guys see the Mind's Eye gameplay reveal? I saw it on the PlayStation YouTube channel. It was like 5 minutes long. And something's looking weird about this game. It doesn't look bad per se. Something just looks off. I don't know how to. It looks kind of hollow. Maybe on the next stream, I'll Guy Gravity, you think it looks bad? Well, I mean, it literally doesn't look bad. It looks more like, it looks generic, very generic and kind of hollow. And those things can be bad. And it's like, the cars blow up way too easy. I didn't notice that. I might have to pay closer attention. Something, yeah, I don't know, man. Something doesn't look quite right. I don't know. If it's $20, you'll buy it. It's like a PS3 game that was made today. For some, that's a seller. Tech demo vibe. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. A tech demo vibe. Oof. I mean, it's kind of a shame, though, because so many of the people working on this game were associated with Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto. Biggest flop of the year incoming. You think so? I mean, that's going to be in it. It comes out soon. That's what's crazy. Like, what's crazy is this game's coming out in like 2 weeks. So I am assuming they're not going to put out review copies. I think they're going to just kind of handle it like, this is just a guess, but my guess is they're just going to handle it like, we're just going to release it and then people can review it when it's out. Which is not a good sign if they do that. But Wallroar with a $2 direct donation saying, keep doing what you're doing, man. Although I don't agree on your Game Pass takes, I love the passion, brother. Well, thank you so much for that, Wallroar. Wallroar. I can't say your name right. I really do appreciate that, man. Thank you for dropping a donation in for the kind words. Yeah, we'll keep it going, man. You know, I'll have those days for sure where I'm crashing out and seemingly not well. Hopefully less of those days. But we'll keep it going. I'm going to continue to try to do my best when it comes to covering PlayStation, but covering stuff that's going on in the industry and keeping up with the streams. I have a good time. I like chatting with you guys. If I can just get better at not letting the trolls get to me. I bet you do love those days I mean, I have to find a more effective way to handle discussing some things where it's like, it's like I say, it always comes down. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I don't like when it turns into like me yelling, you know, or getting like angry because it's like, dude, I mean, come on, what are we doing? We're talking about video games. But there's got to be a different way to convey the energy. I'll just have to, yeah. Anytime I start to get worked up, I'm just gonna have to start breaking out the weights. Dan, what are you talking about? The discourse is going to be very interesting after the Xbox showcase. It is, yeah. My big thing leading into the Xbox showcase is, and I'm starting it now. I started it yesterday, but I guess we could say I mainly started today. And I'm just gonna see how it works. I'm basically ignoring everything outside of my chat and my YouTube comments. Even my YouTube comments, like I'm being careful how much I spend time reading those. I'm trying to just isolate myself a little bit. And the reason for that is because I just have to submit to the fact, it is a fact, that I'm too influenced by other people's opinions. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's, good or bad. It's just, I mean that as in it just is what it is. Where if I want to talk to you guys and be more, I want to be less convoluted, essentially. Like I want to have less, baggage. I don't know. Maybe that's too intense of a word to use, but I don't want to come into the streams or like showcase reactions or anything thinking about anything anybody's saying. It's different when I'm engaged with you guys in the chat because from what I can tell, everybody's polite to me, even when people disagree with me, they're not being nasty or anything. It's the trolls, man. It's the trolls and the rage bait. There's too much of it out there. There's too much of it out there, and I can't deny that it works on me sometimes. And I've just come to the conclusion that the actual solution here is just focus on the thing itself and focus on my chat. That's what matters. So going into this Xbox showcase as well as Summer Game Fest, I'm going to be going in with a relatively optimistic attitude. You know, I think I'm more excited for Summer. I don't know if I'm more excited for Summer Game Fest or Game Fest than I am the Xbox showcase. It's just a matter of like, it's the prospect of what games Microsoft will have the PlayStation logo on that will be a little bit surprising. Like, oh, okay, here it is. That I think adds a little flair to the Xbox showcase, but I think just based off the sheer amount of third-party developers and the fact that PlayStation's actually going to be at Summer Game Fest, I think my hype levels are a little bit higher for that, but it is a Jeff Keighley show, so I'm like, for now, I think I'll just put them on the same hype level. You know, I'm feeling about the same going into both. It'll be the first true showcase where PlayStation players are as important as Xbox owners. Curious how the PS community will react. It will be interesting. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the posts I put out on Twitter today is, and I don't think anybody was expecting this. We heard rumors of a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 PlayStation 5 bundle, and then like nothing really happened. But then we got rumors of Days of Play, and it turns out that Sony was saving that bundle for the Days of Play. So what's crazy right now is you can buy, up until June 11th, a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 PS5 bundle, disc or digital, and it's $400. Doesn't matter which version you pick, it's $400. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Seems like Microsoft and Sony are coming together again. They're shaking hands. Like, hey, yeah, let's put Call of Duty in the bundle. Get people in. Sony wants that, but so does Microsoft. But what's even more interesting is when you take into consideration, and I came across this on Charlie Intel. Charlie Intel pointed out, they said a PS5 console with Black Ops 6 included is $399. Xbox is currently charging $430 for 1 terabyte Xbox Series S with no game. And that's kind of shocking. Like, that is genuinely kind of shocking. Like, the only way I can read that is Microsoft actually seemingly wants people to go to PS5. Like, they're not even putting Call of Duty in their own console. Like, they don't even have a bundle. I'm like, that's wild. Why is that, though? Like, that's kind of telling. I'm just not exactly sure what it means. It's weird. It's so weird, but I don't know. It's an interesting situation. It really is. I can honestly tell you that I would have never anticipated that this is something we would be talking about, but here it is, you know? You think it's Microsoft trying to kill I don't think they're trying to kill the Xbox division. It's just, my read on this is that my honest read on it is it's indicative of Microsoft wanting to get away from hardware. You know, like they would literally rather you buy somebody else's hardware to get their software than they would their own. Because it's crazy that, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's another view of it as well. They might just view it as, listen, Sony, you get a free copy. Well, that's what's weird to me is like the Call of Duty bundle, you're getting a free copy of Call of Duty if you buy it. That's what's weird to me. So the only thing I can really think here is that's Microsoft's storefront. There it is. Bingo. Got it. That's what it is. It's like, why are you willing to give not only Sony and their console, but the PlayStation player, why are you willing to give them a free copy of this? And they're not even buying your console. It's because that's a storefront. Call of Duty is a storefront. Trust me, I still play it, and I go and I check that store, and I'm like, "Yep, this is a full blown storefront, bro." God damn, where people are spending $20-$30 a pop, which is the price of many video games. So that's probably why Microsoft is like, "Yeah, we're totally cool doing that." Very interesting turn of events, man. Kind of crazy how we went from in 2023. And Sony as well, thinking they're going to take Call of Duty from us. They're going to take a Call of Duty. They're going to take it from us. And it's like, fast forward to a year and a half later, and it's like, actually, can we keep bundling it with your PlayStation console? So I was like, yeah, that's great. This is great. Very interesting, man. But yeah, this upcoming. Well, Piper, you're saying it's not free. I mean, but it literally is. At least for now. For now. I'm not saying it won't be after the sale's up. The sale lasts till June 11th. But for right now, that bundle, if you pay for, you are just paying for the console. The game is free. The game is thrown in there. I would have thought that it would have been the Astro bundle that Sony would have done. Jim Ryan can rest easy now. I'm sure he's resting. He's resting easy. He made his money. I don't think Sony paid to offset the Black Ops 6 cost. That's the most surprising thing to me, Snake07, is that Sony's offering the disc drive version of the PS5 at the same price. At the same price that they are the digital version. I'm like, that's a first, man. They've never done that. And so I highly recommend, if you are somebody, I don't know, I mean, we only have like 173 people. I say only, that's a lot of people, but I recommend if you're in the market for a PS5, man, definitely go for that disc model because it's the same price. You think they pay for that? I don't know why. Maybe. I mean, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Because I find it difficult. I don't think Microsoft would do that for free because that just doesn't make sense. I think the question is what kind of agreement are we talking about? It probably has to be something like, yeah, they're in cahoots together, and it's probably a pretty good deal for Sony because it's also a good deal for Microsoft. They both have leverage. Microsoft says, well, we own Call of Duty. If we don't want to give it to you in a bundle, we don't have to, and we won't. It's not our console. But Sony could be like, but we know you want to get this. We know you want people to get Call of Duty on PlayStation, and we know that you want to funnel people into that Call of Duty storefront. So they both kind of have leverage. And Sony was like, we're going to sell these consoles with or without Black Ops 6 bundled in. So Microsoft's just like, all right, well, how about you pay us this amount? And it's probably a totally fair amount. So he's like, deal. Win-win, They can take a hit if the bundle sells well. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too, is like, to me, what's most interesting about this current sale for Sony is how it really is at a time when, like, man, I knew that they were going to do a Days of Play sale, but I was not anticipating they were actually going to slash the price of the consoles. Even if it's temporary, I didn't think they were going to do that because I'm like, I think it just kind of goes to show that Sony's not necessarily operating the way that people assume they would, where people assume that Sony would just jump on the price increase bandwagon just because they can. Hey, everybody else is doing it. We're going to do it too. We have to understand that Sony's approaching this time where, like, they're trying to get the people who avoided the PS5 up to this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not trying to. They know that if they want to come out with an expensive PlayStation 6, a lot of us who not all of us, but a lot of us who really care about it, we'll pay a premium for it. Like if it's expensive, we will, just like we did the Pro. But right now they're trying to get that person that's still on PS4 or maybe just hasn't gamed for a while. They're like, you ready now? Like, here you go. $400 disc-based Black Ops 6 bundle, doesn't really it hasn't been this good this entire gen. So they're trying to get those people in. And I think it's just worth understanding that Sony does not truly, they do not want to increase the price of the console, especially in the US, because that's going to hurt them. It just is. They're trying to get millions of consoles out there as we approach the last third of the generation. And they're trying to win over those people who really went this whole gen without a PS5. You think you're going to convince those people by raising the price that now you definitely need a PS5? No, you're going to make it even easier for them to continue to pass on it. So it kind of makes sense logically why they're trying to avoid it at all costs. But anyway, guys, extended this a little bit longer than I expected, but I'm going to wrap the stream up here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, for hanging out with me. I thought it was a really good show. We covered a lot of good topics. Really interested to see how things start to play out going into June. Of course, we still have a couple more days left in May, so we'll continue to roll out the content. I did put out a news video earlier if you want to go check that out. One of the things I covered in that news video that I actually failed to mention in this stream, we brought up Hellblade 2. There is going to be a physical version of Hellblade 2 done by Limited Run Games. That was kind of leaked out by the ESRB rating, so it's going to be for both PS5 and Xbox. I meant to cover that earlier, but there you go. I might try to secure a physical copy of that for PS5. A little annoying that it's being done by Limited Run, but better than nothing, right? Better than the Forza situation where they're not doing anything. Yeah, so a big shout out and thank you to everybody who dropped direct support today. We're finishing at 50 members. I think Corey dropped 20 memberships, Laughing Man dropped 20, Hellbound dropped 5. So thank you guys so much for that. Anybody who dropped any super chats or direct donations, I appreciate that as well. And as I have said and will continue to say as long as it's true, I can only do this because you guys make it possible. So very much appreciate the support, guys. Want to make sure to also give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for the streams. If you guys see him in the comments, give him some thanks. Show him a little bit of love. I know that you guys appreciate those timestamps, and he does a great service for the channel and the community here. So Devil Shooter, thank you for what you do. And that's it. That wraps it up. Only other thing I'm going to ask you to do as you're heading out is just please take a moment and hit that like button. And yeah, other than that, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. We should be back here tomorrow with another stream. So I hope to see you then. And till then, take care, everyone.